Hello, everyone. I am Zazubaar, and welcome to a very special and overdue episode of the Sons of Serizawa podcast. Joining me, as always, I actually have, all the people who are supposed to be on this show every goddamn episode. I have returning from the great beyond, David Joshua Hernandez, aka Gorzard.
Great beyond. You're implying that
The
I
great
was sent
beyond
to
of
the land
not being
before
on the
time?
fucking internet for a month.
That movie fucking made me depressed as a kid.
The great beyond?
No.
Before time.
The Land Before Time.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was talking over you, so you know. No.
You triggered him.
Oh,
You
yeah.
triggered him, Bill.
Oh yeah, because isn't that the allegory of that movie? Is that the dinosaurs like go through hell or something, and then they end up in the great beyond, and it's supposed to be like heaven?
Is that what it's supposed to be?
I think so. Because think about the way that movie is structured narratively. Anyway,
I thought the point of that movie was, hey kids, your parents will die eventually.
and I was like, okay, cool. No. Also joining me, I have Dylan McCandless, aka Super DM64.
Hi everybody, I'm sick.
He is indeed, but not in the head like usual. Actually, physically this time.
Yeah, it's fucking awful. But
It's...
whatevs.
Also joining me, I have Andres Perez, aka Kaiju Noir.
Konnichiwa, people of the internet.
So we're actually gonna skip an American, Mexican, and Japan on this week's episode, just because we have things that we have to discuss, motherfuckers. We have. I know.
We know that's your favorite Andre segment out of all two of them.
Indeed.
I love how
week...
out of the two or three segments we have, they're mostly revolved around me.
Oh, definitely. This show would crash and burn without you. I hope you know that. You're an important member. The important member. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm here. I'm just like, all right, you guys talk. I'm going to go over here. No. So, for this very special episode, this long overdue episode, and I say long overdue mostly just because we probably should have talked about this last weekend, but the way this always works out, it didn't work out that we could talk about the thing that we wanted to talk about last week when it happened. And of course, I really shouldn't even make any mystery about it. Kids, on this week's episode of the Sons of Serizawa podcast, we're in for a doozy. We're in for a potentially emotional experience. We are going to be doing a spoiler analysis of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Now, kids, let me just say this. You guys just missed it. Dylan just did he kind of put his hand over his mouth very daintily. I was just like, that killed me. Anyway, so let me just say this before we start
I
debating.
do all kinds of physical gags that the audience never sees. It's great.
It always sucks. One of these days, I'm going to start recording these things on screen capture and just put up choice segments where you do visual gags, because it's always funny. Like, I will do that next week. But let me just say this kind of serious thing before we get into this, because I feel like with this movie, with the four of us, with the way our conversations work out, this may get lost in the shuffle. But I just want to start this out on a serious note, just like this whole fucking movie is. So that way we can move on to making fun of it and giving our more actual review points later.
Right.
So let me just say this.
This is Sir's business.
Indeed. So Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice is one of the most fascinating superhero releases in the history of cinema. Because to say that it has polarized people would be an understatement. Man of Steel polarized people.
Mm-hmm.
Man of Steel was like, some people liked it, some people didn't. That's polarizing. Everybody walked out of the movie with a different experience. I know Dylan and I loved it when we first saw it.
Yeah.
And then you kind of over time were like, oh, this movie doesn't really work at all, but we still enjoy it.
Right, that's kind of like how I feel right now, because to be honest, I haven't seen the movie since I first reviewed it back in 2013, and since then I was like, yes, this thing has a lot of major problems, but it's like, it has its moments.
And what kills me is all the people who hated that movie walking into the Batman v Superman thing. Well, this one will be different, and then they walk out pissed and surprised, and I'm like, why are you surprised?
Well, hang on, let me finish this point, just because I think it's important.
Yeah.
This movie is extremely controversial. Everybody has a different take on it. Everybody who sees it and walks out of it, not everybody, obviously there has been a general consensus that we'll talk about, but
yeah,
most people who I've talked to in person, it's like every person I talk to, it's like one person says they loved it, one person says they thought it was the worst thing ever. So to that point, let me just say this. We have a very varied and wonderful listenership of people with all kinds of different opinions and all kinds of different levels of geekdom and interest. All of them have probably saw this movie given the records that it broke last weekend for making a lot of money, but then again, maybe you haven't seen it for the records that it's breaking this weekend for losing a lot of money.
Oh, the drop off actually did happen.
Oh, it's an 80% drop off.
Holy
no joke.
This is another
71%, Bill.
I've been seeing different percents. I see it jump between 71 and 80.
Like,
Is it now down to 71?
Funny enough, it's like it's not even Sunday where you guys are. It's barely Sunday where you are. Where
I mean,
I'm
listen.
halfway through Sunday right now, where I am.
I mean, listen. We're not going to talk about box office much in this, just because we
Right.
don't fucking care. Our
Right.
opinions are all that matter to us.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter how much money the movie made, especially with something like this.
Mhm.
DC and Warner Brothers put it out internationally everywhere at the same time.
Yeah.
Everybody should have taken that as a sign that something was wrong, because it's a Batman Superman movie. Of course, it's going to make money, but
You don't even have to try
obviously-
and market that. Anything
No,
with
not at
Batman in
all.
the title is going to make money, let alone Superman.
yeah.
And then you put both of those to like it was always going to make money. That was never even a
It
concern.
was the Star Wars. It was the Star Wars of this month, and it kind of showed reflective numbers, but now not so much. So let me say, before we get into our own individual thoughts on the movie, before we start reviewing it, before we do our spoiler analysis, I just want to open with, whatever your opinion is, you do not need other people to validate it for you. If you liked Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, like Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. If you didn't like Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, continue to not like Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. We're going to give our thoughts on it, we're going to talk about it, and there's a very, very good chance, because I know these three motherfuckers, that if you do like Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, you probably shouldn't keep watching if you're somebody who, and listen, I get that there are people out there who are like this. I was once a person like this, who is like mentally bothered by listening to people make fun of something that they like. So therefore, I would say that this might not be the best thing for you to watch, but if you would also like to hear people give, I'm gonna at the very least attempt to explain my points in the best way that I can, but if you would like to hear people give their critical analysis of Batman v Superman despite your opinions on it, please continue. I think we'll provide a comprehensive, interesting, yet we'll do our best to make it fucking funny. And with this movie as material, I don't think it'll be very hard. Spoiler analysis as we can. So with all that said, listen to it or don't. Either way, it's cool. Watch Batman v Superman, like it or don't. It's all up to you, kids. Your opinion is the only opinion that matters to you. Just remember that. So with that being said, let's jump into our spoiler analysis of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Here's where I want to start. We're going to jump right into spoilers. This movie's been out for a week. If you were going to see it, you've seen it already, so I don't fucking care. So I just want to ask you guys one very simple question, and I just want yes or no. I want nothing else. I don't know, you can give me a little more, but I basically want yes or no. Question I want to ask you guys is, do you think people should see it? And I'm going to start with Andreas. Andreas, do you think your average Joe Blow moviegoer should go and see Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice in the theater?
Yes, I think that there is enough in this movie to warrant a single watch.
Dylan, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, yes or no to the theater experience?
Yeah, sure. Why not? It's a Zack Snyder film. They're always pretty. Go look at it on a big screen, you know.
David Joshua Hernandez, a.k.a. Gorzard, Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Is it worth it for a big screen experience?
Oh, definitely. It is basically a big screen experience, and there's also something wonderful of watching Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman in that same screen in live action,
Absolutely,
big budget
man.
form.
Okay. Cool. I'm also going to say, see it. It is a visual spectacle. Every frame is gorgeous. The CGI is great. The cinematography is great. It looks like a comic book movie. It is how comic book movies kind of should look. I mean, there were moments in this where I was just like, Marvel could learn a thing or two from these guys, just in terms of some of the absolute right out of the comics material that I saw up on that screen. And for that, it's absolutely worth it. And yeah, for the action at the end, it's absolutely worth it to see that happen on the big screen, because I don't know if it's going to have the same impact on a small screen.
Yeah, you know, if Marvel and DC could like get together and Marvel be like, "Hey, you lend us some of your cinematographers, and we'll lend you some of our writers." They could all
I think that might be the way to go.
just all around like.
But anyway, so that being said, we've all pretty much come to this consensus that you should see it. It's a visual spectacle. But now let's get into the nitty-gritty. So I'm going to start. I'm actually going to start. I don't know who to start with, because I know Dylan's opinion. I don't know David and Andres'. So I'm actually going to go David, because I haven't talked to you in a while. David, give me your basic Also, we're gonna jump into spoilers now, so I don't give a shit. You guys can spoil whatever you want. Just say your general overview of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, your opinion. So, David, what were your thoughts on the movie?
Um, Admittedly, it's a mess. It's a huge mess from a story standpoint, an editing standpoint, especially, and at times from a directing standpoint. But it was enjoyable in the end. It delivered what it was kind of sort of supposed to, deliver superheroes fighting each other, even though it was like the last 40 minutes of the movie.
They really like they put it all at the back end, didn't they? They were all just like, all right, we're gonna. It was like it was the Godzilla 2014 of this year. It was like we're gonna build the shit out of this, and then when we get there, it's not gonna make any sense, and nobody's gonna care, but it's gonna fucking happen.
At least cool shit happened on the way there, rather than
occasionally
teasing us.
Also, very good analogy because Lex Luthor's plan was basically let them fight, and then
And that's so true. That is so fucking true. But it would have been more if like Dr. Serizawa, instead of Godzilla having the reason of of balancing out nature to attack the Mutos, is if Dr. Serizawa kidnapped Godzilla's mother and then was like, "Go kill the Mutos, otherwise I'm gonna fucking kill your mother." And then Godzilla's like about to breathe the fire down the female Muto's neck, and the female Muto's like, "Save Martha!" He's like, "Why'd you say that name? Why did you say that name?" And then Godzilla just stops. So okay.
apparently Bruce
David,
Wayne was-
wait, hang on. David, is there anything else you wanted to say?
I think it should be noted that I saw this movie twice. The second
I
time
did too.
because I felt like I didn't understand it the first time.
Me neither, bro.
Second time I felt like I had to see it because I needed to understand it. Now knowing what to expect.
Were you distracted by those three or four teaser trailers that they shoved in the middle of the film?
Like Flash going back in time in the middle of Bruce's dreams somehow
Oh
saying,
my god.
"We need to find
DC.
That was
Love is the
fucking
key."
retarded.
Hang on, DC. I gotta. DC, are you okay? Like,
Oh, the
I don't know
Aquaman
what the
one is the best.
fuck you
The
were
Aquaman
thinking.
one is the best. He's standing there. It doesn't even look like he's swimming. He's all
Get
Just
off
like-
my lawn!
He literally was poking. I love how Dylan actually picked up like something that looked like a fork. That was great. Damn, I'm seriously screen capping this next time because these fucking people are missing something. They're missing something special.
Get off my lawn, you damn dirty kids!
he's gonna do that, and then I'm gonna stop doing visual gags.
And then, oh, that would be great. You've totally fucked me up, just like you always do. And then fucking, all right. So of those, I would say that Flash's was probably the best. If we're just gonna talk about that now,
I like.
I would say that I
Flash,
probably like Flash.
not the dream within a dream Flash.
No. I'm sorry. Yeah, the Flashes, or I'm sorry, we just jumped right into something here that we probably should have waited for. But I liked that one the best. Anyway, so David, is there anything else you want to add? Just overall thoughts wise?
Not now, but more than likely I'm gonna bring it up later.
Oh yeah, we'll get into some shit. Trust me. But I think that it sounds like I have a feeling you probably liked this more than the rest of us. But we'll get into it because you also. Oh, what's your take on Man of Steel? These days, because that used to be like your movie, man. You used to fucking love that thing. Do you still feel that way?
I still enjoy it. Well, surprisingly, I enjoy Man of Steel on the same level that I enjoyed Dawn of Justice. I was gonna say Jawn of
Jawn of Dustice.
Jawn of Dustice. I enjoy it on the same level, except that there are some things about Dawn of Justice that irritate me a little bit more than Man of Steel.
I agree with you. I think Man of Steel has the beauty of being 10 times simpler than this was, and that allowed it to sort of carry an atmosphere and a pace that this just missed. I would watch Man of Steel 10 times before I would watch this. But I'll get to that. So, Andres, I also have no idea what you're going to say.
Okay.
So, Andres, why don't you give your overall general thoughts on Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice?
Okay, like David said, the writing, the plot is a complete mess in terms of character motivation and especially in pacing. And I know another film critic mentioned this, where he compared this entire movie to the few moments in Avengers: Age of Ultron where they were like just taking time away from the movie to hint at Phase 3 plots. This entire movie was that issue. It just permeated throughout the film, where it was trying to tell two stories and then like trying to
More like
build
5, I
I
would
guess
say.
more, yeah, it's 5 stories while also hinting at 5 further stories into the future.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was actually really enjoying this movie, with the exception of again the whole character motivations. Superman acts like a dick for no reason. Batman has a little more of an excuse. Um,
Batman is a lunatic.
Although it kind of plays into his
And it's
character,
fine,
and
I
for
guess.
me, it didn't really bother me, the portrayal of Batman here, as much as other people have. I mean, then again, I'm the person who
Me neither.
likes Tim Burton. I'm the guy who likes Tim Burton's Batman a lot. Um,
You guys
Feel you,
know
brother.
I'm gonna have things to say
yeah.
about that.
I feel you, brother.
And but I liked how, even though Batman was a complete psychopath here, it kind of plays into his overall character arc in this film. I like that idea where it's like, here's a Batman who's been going at it for 20 years and kind of lost he's kind of gone a little over, no, not a little, way over the edge. We have a Superman here who is still struggling with how he's supposed to fit in this world. Also a really good idea, but it kind of executed very poorly because this Superman's a little bit unsympathetic. Um, and I thought people would complain that Wonder Woman came out of nowhere. I thought she was built up as decently as they could, despite the fact that she had no prior movie beforehand. Uh, but yeah, as I was saying, I was enjoying the first 40 minutes, and it was building up to that fight. And I feel like, okay, I'm digging this movie. Wait, there's a fucking hour left?
Yeah, I think we had the same experience, Andres, because I had a similar thing. Like the first 40 minutes, I was like, why is everybody hating this so much? And then I think the Flash scene was what did it for me, where I was just like, oh, okay, these guys have no fucking clue what they're doing. All right, good. I just wanted to make sure.
And the dream sequence,
The nightmare sequence.
yeah, the
Yeah,
nightmare
the Nightmare
sequence
Justice League scenario.
makes
Yeah.
no fucking sense.
I don't really get what they were getting at there. I don't know if that's supposed to be the future of this universe or if that was supposed to be a potential thing that they averted in this film. I couldn't tell. Or if it was supposed to be both.
I
I
didn't
had
even
no
notice
idea.
until I was looking at still images later, but those soldiers Batman is fighting have Superman crests on their arms.
Yeah.
You didn't know that?
No, I never
see,
noticed that before.
People,
see,
I noticed that from the trailers.
yeah, I saw that from the trailer last year, so I knew that well in
I never
advance.
saw
But they
that at
didn't
all.
explain that at all in this movie, so
Uh, but I think I have an idea, but I'll get into that later.
oh,
But
I know what it's supposed to be, but in the movie though, they have
yeah,
no. They're just like whatever. It is what it is.
yeah.
But what else did you want to throw in there?
But anyways, I feel like the I love the fight between Batman and Superman. I loved all the homages to The Dark Knight Returns because that's my favorite comic of all time. Uh, but I thought that, again, because of the sloppy writing and the character motivations and the dialogue, that entire fight could have been avoided from the get go. Had I feel like this was like a first draft script that was just rushed into production. Uh,
Knowing
but
DC, it
anyway,
probably was.
yeah.
It was probably 5 or 6 scripts that they Frankensteined together and said, Zack Schneider, please shoot this. And if that's what happened, okay, I'm gonna give Zack Snyder a lot of shit this podcast. Like,
Uh-huh.
trust me, we'll get
But I
there.
will say, for the climax, even though it was really rushed and kind of came out of nowhere, I dug the hell out of that last fight. At that point, I was like, "Fuck yeah!"
Okay,
So yeah, that's
cool.
basically my. It's like I have different opinions on like different points of the movie as it goes
Oh no,
along.
definitely. I totally feel
To
that
say,
just because it's so many different
yeah,
things at
just
different times that it's just like you can almost review this as like 5 or 6 different movies.
yeah. So I went to this movie expecting the worst of the worst, and much like Terminator Genesis, I came out of it pleasantly surprised at what was good in the movie.
hmm I definitely feel that, yeah,
Yeah, so
because I imagine because it's not a total fucking train wreck.
right.
As I actually those were the first words out of my mouth when I saw it the first time. I turned to my friends and I said, "Wow, what a train wreck!" And it's not.
Yeah.
It's not a complete train wreck.
Yeah.
There's too much. I enjoyed it too much for that to be fair.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'll get to my thoughts. I keep butting into everybody's, and I'll shut up. But Dylan, why don't you give your overall general thoughts
I
on the film?
also had a Terminator Genesis experience watching this movie, but sort of in reverse, and also in reverse of what you and Andres were just talking about. When we reviewed Terminator Genesis, we talked about how the first half of the movie was actually really strong, and then it like just goes to shit in the second half. With this, I mean, I did not like the first half at all, and then when we got to the second half, at least we had all the stuff that I paid to see happening, and it sort of drew my attention more. The first half of this movie is just David mentioned the editing, and I had like a physical reaction. It's terribly edited. It's they're doing all this setup in like really obvious ways, and it just But then when you get to the second half, it's the actual fight that you came to see, and then you get Doomsday, which I don't know why all the people are like hating on this version of Doomsday. Um,
Oh yeah,
I do.
I mean,
I was surprised by this version of Doomsday.
yeah, I mean, I
Sorry.
expected it to be done worse than it actually was, honestly.
Yeah, I
So
was kind of
maybe
expecting like
it was
a
just my
generic
expectation.
monster.
Um, but
That's kind of what he was, though, wasn't it? He didn't
Well,
have a
yeah,
personality or anything. He just
true.
fucking started killing people.
But at least
Or
he had
started
the
I mean,
power. He had
killing
the
people, my
power
bad.
set of Doomsday, which is kind of like the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
gimmick of Doomsday.
And he did the whole evolving thing, and he like grew the spikes and everything. It was fine, I thought. As a third act monster in a movie, you know. But like you guys have already been saying, it's a mess. But if you're going in there just to watch the fight, then you will enjoy that because the fight is as delicious as Granny's peach tea.
Which, I mean, Dylan, that was urine, though. So what is that? I'm trying to wonder if that was a joke or not.
I don't know.
Oh, it's supposed to be ambiguous, just like the ending with the dirt, and that's
Yeah.
not supposed to be ambiguous at all because the fucking dirt levitates. So obviously Superman's not dead. Fuck you,
Right.
Zack Snyder. No.
How he's not dead is a fucking mystery to me, but he's not somehow.
I don't know, Dylan.
Also,
Maybe what the fuck is that guy? The last son of Krypton suddenly shows up and borrows his Superman's body to make
That's what
himself
I'm
a
thinking.
Superman clone. How the fuck that Death of Superman did it?
now specific things. I fucking loved Ben Affleck.
Yeah, he's great.
And like Andres was saying, the whole direction that they went with Batman didn't really bother me because this is a Batman who has a history and like there's reasons that he's all fucked up, and we saw like the Robin suit with the Joker writing in the lair and all that shit. And also they were going for that more like gritty, like Frank Miller, like fucking like badass Batman that like beats people half to death and shit.
I'm gonna
Or
beat the
too
crazy out of them.
as more often happens.
I thought Jeremy Irons was great as Alfred.
Also, yeah.
Yeah, I
Cavill's
feel like
Superman was consistent with the last film. Amy Adams.
That's all you can say about his Superman. Is like it's consistent.
Yeah, Amy Adams was naked at one point. That was the most useful thing she did in the whole movie. And
She, oh yeah,
throughout the
she
entire
had that little
movie,
jogging scene.
they're trying to think of ways to make her important. I'm like, look, if you want me to care more about her, just have her naked for more of the movie. But my God, did this version of Lex Luthor really grind my gears?
It's like watching Andres. You and I talked about this at last year's G Fest. We have something called sympathetic embarrassment. It's a condition.
yes.
And it's when you watch people do something and you know that like everybody is just like, oh god, don't. You know that everybody is like laughing on the inside, and that just kills you.
You're cringing for that person.
And it feels like it's happening to you. Like I have the very same thing.
Yeah.
And every time Lex Luthor opened his fucking mouth, I had sympathetic embarrassment because I was just like, not for Jesse Eisenberg, but for the character. Just because I was just like, and not like, I'll explain that, but like just like I was cringing, and not in a good way.
And then come to find out they wanted Bryan Cranston for the role.
Yeah,
I'm like,
you passed on Brian. Why you passed on Bryan Cranston for this?
Yeah, they had a different version of
Cranston. Lex. Cranston, he played Heisenberg. He'd make a great Lex Luthor. But you know what I think would be good? The kid from Superbad. Or not Superbad. The kid from Zombieland. Let's get
Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Jonah Hill can play the fat Lex Luthor from the Silver Age or Bronze Age.
Yeah, why not? No, the fucking nervous kid from Zombieland. Let's get him. That'll be great.
Michael
right, kids?
Cera?
No, not Michael Cera.
What are you talking about?
Jesse Eisenberg was the kid from Zombieland. You fucking.
Oh, I thought. Okay, never mind. I thought you were trying to make a serious point. My bad.
No. When do I ever
lost?
do that?
My bad.
But also, this kind of pissed me off, and maybe this is a nitpick. They finally put Mercy in one of the movies, and then he blows her the fuck up.
Yeah, a lot of people had a problem with Mercy in this.
It's like,
I felt the same way.
I'm sure David died a little inside.
People were freaking out over Jimmy Olsen getting shot. I was like, fuck Jimmy Olsen. They finally put Mercy in a movie, and then he blows her up. That's like Lex's like, confidant and shit. Fucking no Miss Tessmacher shit. They had the real fucking person and blow her the fuck up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Assholes.
Fuck faces, right?
But anyway,
What a bunch of bloody legends.
Yeah, right.
they're awful.
Anything else to add, Mr. McCandless?
Just, I mean, it's a good time, I guess.
I guess.
Like,
No.
they're gonna put that quote on the poster: "Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. It's a good time." Ellipses, I guess.
I mean, they're gonna have to start doing stuff like that because nobody is saying anything good about this movie.
I just saw a meme right now of the Batman v Superman logo with the meme saying "Give the rights back to Marvel."
I've been seeing that where people are like, "Hey, Warner Brothers, sell DC to Marvel," and I'm like, "Well, they can't do that, but they probably should." No. I will discuss the Marvel bias in a second. But Dylan, is there anything else you had to add?
No.
Or wanted to add? You don't have to do anything. All right. So let me say my piece. I've been making a lot of snarky commentary this whole time. I think I definitely had the most negative reaction out of everybody here. But let me just say, I have a reason. The night I saw this movie at first was an emotional fucking roller coaster for me. I was sick. I was tired. I ate a rotten watermelon. Things were happening. We had friend problems that night. We had like social drama going on.
Aww.
So at the movie theater while the movie was happening, I was suspected of almost getting into a fist fight while I was walking out of the movie. So
You
I
got a
wasn't.
Cinnabon.
No,
It was a terrible night.
yeah, people thought me and my friends had differing opinions, and we started yelling at each other, and it was like it wasn't even like we were yelling at each other because we were mad. We were yelling at each other because we were into the debate, and somebody thought we were about to get into a fist fight, so we had to leave. But
What do you mean you like Mac better than PC?
Yeah. It was like that. It was like Batman's a lunatic, and it's like, well, no, it's fine. I'm just like, Batman's a lunatic. So, all right. So let me say my piece. So I didn't have a great first response to this movie just because I had a bad time watching it because of what was going on around that. And I knew when I walked out of it, I was like, I cannot let the experience I just had be the thing that I talk about when we do this episode.
Even though it was
Because
the
if
thing
it
that you
is,
just talked about while we were doing this episode.
well, no, I thought I would bring it up, but like, just I'm saying my opinion on the film. I didn't want that to be my opinion on the film just because I didn't think it was fair.
Mm-hmm.
For me to go, wow, it was a horrible experience when I could have gone, well, it was a horrible experience anyway. So I mean, it's not really the movie's fault at that point, but this movie is definitely partially to blame. So my thoughts are basically, and we're going to talk about adaptation tonight and bringing these characters to screen from the comics and everything and how successful or not it is at that. And I just want to start off by saying that the reason why that has been almost the only thing that people are talking about when they talk about this movie, because if you go out into the internet and you look at reviews of this movie, you look at people talking about it, pretty much all people are talking about is Batman and Superman kill, and I don't like that. That is the crux of 55% of people's arguments. And I want to say why.
I don't recall
Because I
anybody
don't think
complaining in
people get
'89.
Yeah, that too. So I don't think people get why that's what people are so focused on, because there's nothing else to talk about. There's a lot going on in this movie, but none of it really, like, it doesn't really make you, it doesn't, it's not really worth discussing because this movie at no point for me made me care. This movie to me doesn't really work as an emotional experience or as a narrative experience just because it doesn't do enough work, or it doesn't even think that it doesn't, maybe it thinks that it has to, but it doesn't effectively do the work to make you care about its characters and make you care about the story. It doesn't set up everybody's motivations well enough. The movie is butchered editing wise, just to get you to buy the R-rated ultimate cut, I guess. But there was a lot of stuff left on the cutting room floor, and hopefully the ultimate R-rated cut will be better, because part of the problem with this movie was just because there were so many important plot points that happened off screen. Lex Luthor finding out Batman and Superman's identities. Superman finding out Superman found out Batman's identity on screen. Does Batman find out Superman's identity? Does he know, or does he even care?
I don't
I don't
think he
think it
cares.
really matters.
Okay. I didn't remember if he knew. He wouldn't care though. He doesn't even think of Batman. He doesn't even think of Superman as a person in this. So I guess that wouldn't really matter. But it didn't work for me as a movie. So the only thing that I really had to focus on that I could really feel like I had something to discuss was how I felt this worked as an adaptation, and that's what I focused on a lot when I was talking to people about it. Was I focused a lot on Batman kills people, Superman kills people, and I don't really like it. And again, it was just because
Does Superman
there
kill
wasn't
people? Well, besides Zod,
not
obviously.
Who does Superman kill in this movie other than the dream sequence? He kills
the
people.
first fucking thing we see him do is kill somebody. He puts a guy through a wall.
Did that really kill him though? He could have just.
I don't
He-
care what Zack
he coulda
Snyder
lived.
says. That guy would be dead. I don't know what the fuck he thinks that Superman did, but that guy is dead. And there's no like.
Okay, well,
That's what I
fine.
thought.
Okay, so fine. He died. Did he kill anybody who mattered?
I'm trying to. There was another person.
Doomsday.
What I'm
No, he
asking
didn't
is, what I'm asking is, did he kill any white people?
my bad. Hang on. Well, I mean, technically, I'm trying to think. What does Superman do in this movie, though? I mean, there's not really a solo Superman action
He-
sequence at any point.
There's a
He
montage.
stands around and
There's a
gets,
montage.
he stands
It's
around
weird.
and gets angry at Batman for reasons that we don't really understand. And then,
Oh, they're like debating this is a complete disaster.
Like,
Like
what-
their philosophical debate. I mean, the
at
actual
least
standings
Batman,
between.
at least Batman has good reasons for not liking Superman.
Yeah, at least Batman has a personal stake.
Yeah.
Superman's just a self-righteous dick in this movie.
And a hypocritical
Hey, you
self-righteous
person
dick.
doing the same thing that I'm doing, but without superpowers. You cut that out.
But anyway, so I didn't. I think I've made it clear. I didn't enjoy this movie. I saw it twice, just like David did, and I did it again for the reason of trying to make sure that the experience that I had with it wasn't just based on the horrible friend drama that was not horrible, but just the friend drama that was going on around it. And yeah, it doesn't work for me, and it sucks because I really, really went in trying to give it the benefit of the doubt. And I had no reason to. Like, everybody told me it was garbage when we were walking in. My friends knew the plot beginning to end, which I always hate them when they do that, but my friends just do that every time we go see a big movie like this. They fucking look up all of the spoilers online, and I'm like, what are you doing to yourself?
You're
Why?
ruining the experience.
What is wrong with you? I asked them, I was
you don't
like,
even
why do you
have
guys
to do that. You don't even have to do that with this movie because the movie is just basically like a nearly 3-hour version of the trailer.
Yeah, except the ending is the only spoiler, and that's the thing that they spoiled me on. But I somehow forgot over the course of the movie, so it still shocked me when that happened.
But, I wasn't actually expecting them to kill Superman. Like, I knew they were doing
Yeah.
Doomsday, but I didn't think
I didn't either.
I didn't think they were going to go that far. I didn't know that they
Well,
had
I
that.
thought it was stupid because we know Justice League is going to come after this movie, and
Henry Cavill is training to be in it. Like, what the fuck is wrong
and we all know
with
that
you?
Superman's gonna, even if he is like dead, which the ending is kind of ambiguous. Anybody who knows the comics knows that after Doomsday kills him, he comes back later. But I just wasn't expecting them to do that in the movie. Like, I didn't realize that they had those cojones. But they did.
Yeah.
I give them credit for that.
funny how
But
this
again-
is supposed to be. This is mostly inspired by The Dark Knight Returns, and yet it's the other dude in the cape that gets killed.
Yeah, that is interesting. That was like a twist on that. I think that was partially done on purpose. And as as a visual adaptation of the death of the Superman, great.
Yeah.
All the stuff was there.
Yeah,
I liked the lack of the statue. I thought that was like the
Right.
best like thematic thing that they did in the whole movie.
yeah.
Was there's an S shield on the ground and it says, "Look around you, you are his monument." And I was like, that's fucking great.
Mhm.
Doesn't work with the Superman at all,
No.
but it's great.
They try to get. It's what the weirdest thing about this movie is that they try to set up a status quo that was never established or was barely established at the end of Man of Steel, where people love Superman. We're supposed to believe that this is like the true blue dude that stands for truth, justice, in the American way. Although it's like none of this was really ever established. I know in Man of Steel they had like whatever months later, and everything, the Superman seems to be all chipper and joyful and cracking
In Man of
jokes.
Steel?
Yeah, at the very end where he's like making
Oh, or
jokes.
is there supposed to be months between that and the Battle of Metropolis?
I think so. I don't know. It's so jarring. And
I mean, I don't get
Yeah,
it.
and then-
it could very well
there is a
be.
time
I mean,
skip
so-
at the end of Man of Steel because then there's that scene where he like shoots down that drone.
yeah.
Like,
Sergeant.
I guess.
Yes.
So listen, there's time for an established Superman status quo to be set
Yeah,
up in this movie.
But it's like
The problem is
everyone
it's not set up
Yeah,
though.
yeah,
I don't
everyone
care
is-
if it exists. It's not there.
Like,
It's not in the movie.
Yeah, you have Batman, Bruce Wayne, who is upset over, Superman destroying a bunch of, destroying Metropolis. I'm like, why isn't everyone else still upset over this?
That's my question. This movie should not have.
Except for the dude with no legs.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure
that-
there's 10.
and
There's like 100 of dudes with no legs out there.
there should be fucking millions of people who don't like Superman. And I also thought they made a huge mistake by setting it 2 years after Man of Steel, because then it created the issue of like, well, why has Batman waited so long to make a move against Superman? At all. Like, I get that the existence of kryptonite now is the kind of breaking in the status quo.
catalyst.
I did like that the discovery of kryptonite was the breaking of the status quo. That was kind of clever. That was a good thing to set the ball in motion.
Yeah, it's like great. Now we have something that can actually hurt Superman.
It was a good adaptation of kryptonite. I liked where it came from.
I
It made they didn't explain it, which it was a good explanation.
I liked that they had to discover it, because I was rewatching the old Superman movies this week, and like Christopher Reeves just like told her in an interview, and then Lex read the interview, and he's like, "We got to get some of this stuff." Like that was the whole setup for kryptonite in that movie. It made a lot more sense here.
It's clever in this. I like that it doesn't actually come from Krypton. I like that it was created by the World Engine, because that makes sense, because that's what would happen. Like the World Engine is supposed to make the atmosphere in the ground like Krypton. So once that machine's broken, all the stuff around that would just be kryptonite. So there should be more kryptonite actually than there even is. But that's a great way to get it in there. And I guess I should talk about what I liked, because I didn't say anything of that so far. All the performances are great. Yes, even Jesse Eisenberg is Lex Luthor, because that characterization is not his fault. The only person who I think didn't turn in a grade A of fantastic performance was the guy who played Legless Jimmy. No, and that's not his name. Jimmy Olsen dies at the beginning of this movie. Although I thought that would have been better if that guy was Jimmy Olsen, the guy with no legs. Because wouldn't it be interesting if the guy who actually got amputated by the battle in Metropolis was Superman's biggest fan? Like, that would be kind of interesting if he like understood why everything happened the way it did, and like was like, oh no, Superman had nothing to do with it. It was just he just had to step in, and he did the best he could.
You would still have people on the internet pissing themselves. They paralyzed Jimmy. I'm like, shut up. Jimmy's a useless character. Yeah. Go die.
Oh no, I did not like that they killed Jimmy Olsen in the beginning of this movie, just because I thought it was fucking waste. Because it's like, if Zack Snyder doesn't know what to do with that character, and I'm not the first person to say this, I've seen this other places, then maybe he should have just not done him and just left him for somebody else to do it.
Yeah, they didn't do him in the last movie, you know?
I mean, wasn't there?
They tried. They cut out what they did. Jenna was supposed to be Jimmy Olsen.
Right, they were trying to make Jimmy Olsen a girl.
They cut it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, any change you make to Jimmy Olsen in any way, people just like piss themselves, because he's beloved for some reason. And
I think he's fine.
You're the more experienced Superman fan, Bill. Yeah, what would you say to that?
I mean, I think I just like that he's there. He's an aspect of the status quo that's important, just because he's also Superman. He's also like, he's kind of Superman's confidant in a way. He never questions in his support of Superman, and you kind of need somebody like that, because you need somebody for Superman in a moment of self-doubt to go, dude, you're fine. Remember what you stand for. The version of Superman,
I guess, because Lois Lane has become Superman's confidant in this version, because she knows both identities at this point, unlike the classic depiction of the Superman status quo.
Loved them in this, by the way. I thought Henry Cavill and Amy Adams had great chemistry. I mean, what they can do with the script. I mean, but saying to the script's point, their dialogue was the best part of the movie, dialogue-wise. Like, Alfred's lines were great, Martha Kent had some great lines, and Lex Luthor had some one or two moment where I was like, okay, this is not bad. But they really had a spark to me that nothing else in the movie had. There was a moment where Superman called Lois Lane Lo, and I was like, we haven't had that in the movies yet. That was kind of nice. That's a nickname that she's called in the comics, and she's never been called on screen. I liked that. I thought that their romance was shockingly good, given the fact that we know nothing about it. Like, we don't see their relationship really established in Man of Steel that much, like romantically. I mean, they kind of just meet and then they kiss and that's it. And then in this, they're like on the verge of getting married, and in fact, in the end, we see a ring, and that was nice because it was also a good way to have the status quo of the death of Superman established. Because that's where everything time-wise when that happened was. They were about to get married, and she knew his identity, and it was nice that we had that status quo set up. And by the way, let me say, you totally could have done the death of Superman right in this movie. All the pieces were there. I, in fact, think that a Batman versus Superman story where he dies at the end is kind of interesting. I just don't think that they in any way did it in a way where anybody could care. I mean, it's just the story is just it doesn't make the audience care. It didn't make me care, I should say. I'm using big words where I can't speak for people's opinions, but it didn't make me care about anybody in particular's character or about anybody's journey or about anybody's arc or about the story at all or even about this universe. Like I just kind of went, none of this makes any sense. None of these people are doing anything that makes any sense. I just don't care. I just turned off to it. And that sucks because I do give a shit about the DC universe. I do give a shit about these characters. I do give a shit if this universe is worth anything. But this movie made me not, and that's why I don't like it so much. Just because I don't like that a DC movie made me feel that way. Man of Steel didn't even make me feel that way. I mean, Man of Steel kind of over time made me go to that point of, well, this movie doesn't really work as an emotional experience. It just kind of shows you a bunch of shit and hopes you take something away from it, which is exactly what this movie is. And I don't know, just something about this movie. Maybe it was because it was the big Batman and Superman are on screen together moment that I've been waiting for since I was a kid, and it was such a letdown to me that I really had that adverse reaction to it. But I'll also say this to y'all's point earlier. I didn't ever have that moment where, oh my god, Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are on screen together. Never had that. It didn't even affect me. It just happened, and I was like, okay, cool. When you saw the Justice League, didn't really affect me. Flash, only because I was like, oh, I kind of want to see how it's different from the TV version, and it was. And I loved the super speed effect too. I like that it was like super like violent.
It happened. Don't you see it?
Yeah, exactly.
I think not.
Oh my god, Andres, you're so right. Like that was such an Incredibles moment. Wow. That never even occurred to me. There was a lot of moments in this movie where I was like, this is such a ripoff of The Incredibles. No. Yeah. I liked the Flash in the 2 seconds we saw him. I loved the lightning super speed effect. I loved how violent and sort of powerful it was.
He probably must have probably killed that that robber.
Oh, that person's definitely dead. But that's fine, I guess. I mean, he's not the Flash yet, so if he kills people before he's the Flash, it's fine. No,
even though he's not the Flash yet, somehow Lex Luthor must have contacted James Biggie to design minimalistic logos for each of them.
Oh my god, that was so fucking
Lex
dumb.
Luthor's like people did that. Like they made little logos for them in the little computer hard drive.
He's not the Flash yet they went out of their way to say, this guy deserves a lightning bolt.
Also, if you were gonna like have somebody look at those videos in that drive, that's fine. Wouldn't it have made more sense to have Batman do that in the Batcave instead of sending a fucking email to Wonder Woman? That's how you set up the Justice League.
Email address.
That's how you set up the Justice League and email.
Did he find Diana Prince on Facebook?
That fucking scene is the dumbest. Like it is that scene is why this movie doesn't work for me. Like that scene is the epitome of it. So Batman in just a feat of just what the fuck. So Batman emails Wonder Woman from his personal email account and sends her files that they stole from somebody who they know is a criminal, right? And in this email, Batman sends her the photo that proves that she's Wonder Woman, which was cool. I like that the Wonder Woman setup in this sets up her movie.
Yeah.
That was nice. But the thing was that Bruce sends her this email, right? Which, show Wonder Woman, fine. Should have just been the picture. Batman's not a man that needs to talk a lot.
He should have just sent the picture
to an email. It doesn't belong to you. It is you. Who are you?
I said, he could have watched all those videos in the Batcave, and that could have been our crappy setup. But no, he sends the entire thing to her in this fucking email. And I'm like, I'm sitting there in the theater thinking, okay, so Marvel, right? They like spent years doing all these movies and setting up their characters. And DC's approach is he'll email her.
It's an email. It's an email, Dylan. It's as if the heads at Warner Brothers decided to send a personal email to every single fucking DC fanboy and was like, God, you want your fucking shared universe? Fine. Just take it and fucking leave us alone so we can just make more Batman movies. God.
I mean, look.
And listen.
If this movie had been like an origin story for the SOS, then I could say, yeah, email's fine. But it's the fucking Justice League. Maybe you should put some more thought into it.
And it's like, listen, that scenario could have been made to work for me where it was Lex Luthor's surveillance that was the Justice League. Here's a better situation, though. How about Lex Luthor in an attempt to get Batman on his side, which I don't know why they didn't do that, because that's what every other fucking version of this story does, is Lex Luthor tries to get Bruce Wayne to get him to help him take down Superman. And then Batman steps in to fill the shoes of Bruce Wayne. That's what usually every version of this story is. And in that scene, you could have had Lex Luthor go, Batman, Bruce Wayne, I have this thesis called the metahuman thesis, and I have all this evidence that he could have showed Bruce Wayne personally, all his files. Batman could have known all that in a much more organic and interesting way, and you could have had all that. I mean, I just thought it was really lazy and just kind of half-hearted, and it didn't feel like DC cared about their universe in this, and that's why I just didn't care.
I don't think you understand, Bill. You see, what we really needed was for Batman to steal the file from a party and have a scene with Wonder Woman at the party that was very The Dark Knight Rises.
That's what I thought, and I thought that was kind of supposed to be a reference. I think there was definitely a Catwoman reference.
And then email her later. That was obviously the approach that we needed. I mean,
yeah.
Because
just very unclever. This movie had no wit whatsoever. It was about as fucking sharp-witted as a fucking 8-year-old.
The wittiest thing was probably the dialogue between Batman and Alfred.
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you. Alfred, fucking great. I actually like Jeremy Irons better than Michael Caine. Mm-hmm. I think he is that good.
But was
I love it's like, who are we kidding? There's no next generation of Waynes.
That was so funny. I don't know why everybody's freaking out over Batman drinking. I'm fine with that. I don't like. Yeah. We'll talk about my problems with what Batman does in this movie.
I do want to say a lot of people would say that this movie is too serious. There's that DC no joke
Thank you. Let's talk about that.
I don't think that's really that complaint is warranted, because there are moments of levity, much like in the Dark Knight trilogy. Especially, like I said, I just pointed out with the quips between Alfred and Bruce Wayne.
The problem with this movie is that it doesn't not have jokes. The problem with this movie is not the tone. And I think that is the wrong lesson that DC has clearly learned from this, given those Suicide Squad reshoots, which that wasn't an April Fool's Day joke, right? That's actually true. They're doing reshoots to make it lighter and more and less serious.
Really?
Did you guys hear about that?
Because the trailers I've seen have already sort of given me that impression.
That's what I was like. Again, DC, the problem with this movie is that it is not that it takes itself too seriously. It's that it doesn't work, and then it takes itself too seriously, so it's not like you can say this is just supposed to be a big, dumb action movie that everybody can have fun with, because it's not really like a fun experience. It's crazy depressing. So I don't really think that approach really works, you know?
Funny enough, the tone and the dark tone, the dark tone and everything, it didn't affect me that much, I guess.
And it's not like I couldn't take the movie, like, it's not like I just totally turned off to it because it was so dark and it wasn't working. It was that it wasn't working, and that was just another thing on top of it. It was just that it wasn't working, and then this tone doesn't benefit that. Like, the thing that I've heard is, if it was a big dumb movie and it didn't take itself seriously, who would care? The reason why people care is because it's dumb and it cares, or at least it's acting like you should care.
It wants to be more than a dumb action movie, but really that's the only way to enjoy this film.
That's really the only way you can enjoy it, just because there's nothing here. There's nothing you can really dig your teeth into story-wise that makes any sense. It really is just a mess. But I've said a lot. I've said a lot of things that have contradicted each other. I would like to briefly talk about how I feel about this movie as a Batman-Superman fan. I don't like that they kill people. That's just not the versions of these characters that I'm interested in. If they kill people, I'm like, what makes them any different than any other fucking action character that does kill people to solve their problems? The interesting thing to me about Batman and Superman is that they don't do that, that they have a self-appointed credo to not take lives in the pursuit of a better world. And to get rid of that just for style. And that's the reality, kids. That's the only reason that we saw that happen. And that's depressing to me, because I think that there is definitely there was a chance here to make a murderous Batman interesting and compelling and work. But they don't take it. The whole Robin thing is never even mentioned. Like, you just see the suit in the Batcave, and we're supposed to like Bruce Wayne kind of looks at it for a second, but it comes off to me as more of a reference than it does as a character thing. And they do make clear that he's only become this brutal recently, like in one line where Alfred's like new rules, and then there's no more real talk about it. And I just didn't get the sense of I just didn't understand this Batman. That was the reality. It was just he kills a lot of people, and apparently there's a good reason for it. And I just didn't find him sympathetic. Like there was no moment where I kind of got a sense of, oh, this guy's a person with feelings. Oh, okay, I can relate to him. No, he's just kind of a mean. And listen, the Dark Knight Returns version of Batman. I mean, you can make that argument that he has that, but I find that version of Batman sympathetic. He's trying to make that city a better place. It's gone to shit. Also, Zack Snyder, if you're going to use a comic book as the basis for your movie, at least be accurate when you say that you let Batman kill people in this movie because he does in that.
He didn't.
Does.
Did he
No,
really?
he doesn't.
Wait, that part that they recreated that one scene where it's like, don't like, where I'll shoot him. I swear I'll shoot him. I believe you, and then he shoots him. What happened in the Dark Knight in the Dark Knight Returns comic book? Because they recreated that scene, but I'm not sure. I can't remember if he shot him or not. I know in the animated movie adaptation, the animated adaptation of the Dark Knight Returns, he doesn't directly shoot him. He like shoots the hand or the gun or something.
That's what happens in the comic too. He drops the gun. He doesn't shoot him to kill him. He shoots him to knock the gun out of his hand. And even that's a little bit questionable. But you're dealing with a Batman in that situation who has no fucking choice. That guy's about to shoot a baby in that comic. And in this, he's about to shoot Martha Kent.
Yeah.
But in this, Batman didn't have to blow up the whole fucking room.
How did he save Martha then?
I mean, I don't know how the fuck they survived that. Like, Batman's cape... I mean, Batman's costume is seemingly indestructible anyway because he gets shot point blank in the head and nothing happens to him. So instantly I'm just like, okay, so this Batman already I'm a little bit less, like, on board with because he's fucking indestructible anyway. Like, why did he even have to put on that goddamn metal suit to fight Superman?
If you think about it, didn't the Batman from The Dark Knight and Batman Begins kill enough people already with the tumbler, like, moving cards out of the way and blowing up shit to get through?
Absolutely. That was absolutely a problem with those movies. I was kind of hoping we were going to get beyond that.
But no,
though.
We have more Batmobile explosions.
So, the thing is that Batman has killed in every single live-action interpretation before this, except... No, even in the Adam West version he kills, technically. Because there's those people that he dehydrates and never gets to get back.
Some days you just can't get rid of a bomb.
The thing with... And in those movies, he always has a reputation as a guy who doesn't kill. But you know what? People give those movies a ton of shit for that. Like, in Batman Begins, though, he doesn't kill anybody in the tumbler chase because they say nobody died. I mean, it's bullshit. Of course people would have fucking died. But they say that it doesn't. Yeah. And there's a moment like that in this movie, too. When Superman puts that guy through a wall, if somebody had said he didn't die, I would have been more okay with it. But that never happens. Well, I guess like, you never see that guy again.
Just Lois Lane says he didn't kill anybody. And that's one of the stupidest things in that story where it's like supposedly Lex Luthor is having agents kill people around Superman to frame Superman.
Yeah, so basically...
Oh my god, that was so dumb.
Why do they think Superman killed them if they were killed with bullets?
Yeah, apparently he wants the world to... Superman shot a bunch of people and then went inside.
Superman doesn't use a gun!
And then I didn't even understand that.
And then he went inside and I guess he was out of bullets because then he just punched a guy through a fucking wall because he's Superman and he doesn't need a fucking gun. And then Lex's whole plan in this movie doesn't make any sense. The only thing he does that makes any sense is creating Doomsday. The rest of the movie is like, what are you even doing? I mean...
That doesn't even make that much sense, though, because he expects Batman to kill Superman. So why does he need Doomsday?
And that's why that should have been the climax.
blows up that room. He blows up that room, and I thought the idea was he was trying to get people to think that Superman had blown up the room. But then, like, there's a newscast later, and everyone knows.
Didn't understand that scene either.
So it was like, well, what was the point of that even happening other than to like kill that one bitch? And then, like, at the end,
that's the only thing I got out of it.
And then at the end, he seems to know where Batman is, and I'm like, how the fuck does he know that? How the fuck is he aware of all these moves that Bruce Wayne is making?
Mm-hmm. Well, he would know that. He obviously knows that Batman stole the kryptonite because Batman, like, hurt innocent bystanders at his company to do so. Yeah. Okay, so let me talk about that. Number one, I loved Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne. He was awesome. I really hope that the negative reception to this film and whatever happens afterwards does not affect his future of playing and writing Batman, because
supposedly
he's good.
Supposedly he just finished writing the script for his solo Batman movie.
Good, because God, he is good. The problem is that I don't understand his Batman. I don't get it. I don't get where he's coming from. I don't really sympathize with his problem with Superman.
Pissed, Bill. That's where he's coming from. He's fucking pissed.
Why? Like, I get that he blames Superman for the problems for the problems in Metropolis, but that also doesn't even seem to be it. His issue seems to more be like he's gonna go bad at some point.
Yeah.
Like you guys understand. Like, his problem with Superman in this movie doesn't even seem to be, hey, you hurt a lot of people in Metropolis with your actions, which is totally understandable and should have been what they should have made the conflict about. But no, it's this more abstract thing about how he's too powerful and about how if there's even a 1% chance we have to take it. He goes all fucking like supreme fucking like, hang on, it's radical and whatever the furthest right wing person would be. That's what Batman is in this movie, because it's like he's not from Earth, he's dangerous, we gotta kill him.
And he's after our germs.
I don't sympathize with that.
Halt,
because
alien! You dare step foot on American soil without a green card?
This Batman is just he's too emotional and reactionary. He doesn't fucking think about anything. And there's that fucking dumb scene where he where he and Alfred are talking in Wayne Manor, the burnt down Wayne Manor, about what the Wayne family was built on. And Alfred says a series of things that make sense.
Yeah.
Oil, railroad, something else that I forget. Bruce Wayne goes, the first generations of Waynes, they were hunters, Alfred. They kill people with guns, just like me, Alfred. You see me kill all those guys with guns? Oh, I haven't done that yet? Well, let me get to it, Alfred. I'm gonna blow up people with the Batwing, Alfred.
Also, why is Wayne Manor burnt down?
I have no idea.
Is Batman Begins still in continuity?
That's what I was wondering, because I'm like, that was so dumb. Like why would they have Wayne
Manor? You're gonna have a
burned
down Wayne Manor and not explain that?
Is this an alt continuity? Is this an alt continuity where Batman Begins is still the origin for Batman, but they just never rebuilt the manor, and Christian Bale aged into Ben Affleck? Like,
did he grow a larger chin?
Yeah, this movie throws me somehow in that way. I mean, where does the dead Robin come from though? Because he didn't have a Robin in that version. Maybe it's the Joseph Gordon-Levitt Robin, but
he became Robin. Christian Bale moved back to Gotham at some point.
Oh, okay.
He returned as it was, and then
okay, good. The Dark Knight returned after he rose.
And then Joseph Gordon-Levitt got killed, right? And then it's very convoluted, this story. And then the Joker's back. He's not Heath Ledger anymore. And he has Thrill, and he got like prison tats because he was in prison.
Yeah, he got that. Would make this. See, that would be an interesting way to do that. Is if you have the Jared Leto be a version of Heath Ledger who's got prison tats.
Yeah, and he like bleached his skin now, so he doesn't have to keep applying the makeup. He's become very military in that way.
Somehow, this Joker may or may not even be the Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard a rumor that like there's apparently. There's a fan theory that Jason Todd is the new Joker, and I'm like, there's no.
They're probably gonna do the Return of the Joker.
Oh, they could do that too. It could be Tim Drake. Here's the thing, though. They're not gonna. I would have told you before.
That plot point that made no fucking sense in that movie. It would make even less sense in this.
Oh God, can you imagine their attempt to do that nonsense? I do not even want to see.
You can give that nonsense half a pass because it's like in the future and like technology's weird. This, like, no one.
And that movie is good.
At least
tells a story with people who I understand.
And there was like a precedent for crazy technology in the DC AU. We don't have that yet in the movie universe. If they tried to do that, it would be a disaster.
I mean, I did appreciate that the technology in this was a little bit more fantastic than what we saw in Man of Steel. I mean, some of the stuff in the Batcave is like just straight up science fiction, and I was totally fine with that. The Batwing and Batmobile are fucking sick. I mean, everything that Batman does physically in this movie is fucking sick.
Oh, yeah, we finally have a Batman that can fight properly. As opposed,
right, like, not like he, like, actually throws punches.
I like that this Batmobile was, like, a mixture of, like, the classic Batmobile looks and, like, the Tumbler from the Dark Knight films.
Yeah, it was great. I just hated its action sequence.
I mean,
basically, it's Arkham Knight, Bill.
It is Arkham Knight, and that was the problem with it.
I mean, in my opinion, you can't beat the Batmobile from '89, but this is a close second.
Even the Batmobile had Gatling guns on the side.
Oh, this one was like, all right, you see all those guns that Tim Burton had in his car? I'm going to go even further.
Hey, remember that scene where Batman completely missed the Joker in the Batwing? Yeah, he's not going to miss here.
No, he's trust me, Batman ain't missing anybody with guns in this movie. Everybody who he points a gun at, he fucking kills.
Yeah, and you know
trust me.
that was where my problem was, Bill. I didn't have much of a qualm with Batman killing people
Mhm.
because that would be sort of hypocritical of me. He kills people all the time in movies, and I've just grown accustomed to that.
Yeah, me
I just
too.
don't like it. That's
So
just
when
my
I
thing.
go into a
I
movie,
just don't like it.
if I go into a movie and I see Batman kill somebody, it never like strikes me as odd. I guess because growing up with 89, he kills a lot of
That's
people.
totally fair. No, that's totally fair.
But he uses a lot of guns in this movie, and that threw me off. Like
And it's
it
just
wasn't so much the fact that he was killing people; it was the fact that he was shooting them. And I'm like, he
yeah.
doesn't like those.
That's very un-Batman.
He doesn't like those. He doesn't like guns.
No, and the whole and again, I question Zack Snyder's like actual reading The Dark Knight Returns because like in that part of Batman's fucking character arc is that at one point he starts carrying a gun and is fully planning to shoot the Joker, and halfway through that he's like, dude, what the fuck happened to me? I've snapped, I've lost it.
Mhm.
He puts the guns down.
Even then, like,
And that moment never happens in this movie.
also
Zack Snyder's
during
just
the
like, well, it's cool that Batman kills, so I'm just gonna have him do it because he's done it before. And I'm
also,
like,
two things. First off, like, remember there was that. If he really did read The Dark Knight Returns, he should have read that. He should have been aware of that scene where it's like, "These are a coward's weapon. We should not be using these. In time, I will teach you to use my methods."
that's the other thing is that Batman's like, the reason why I like Batman as a character is because he's like, killing is easy. I'm not taking the easy way out. That is where Batman and Superman align as people. They do not want to take the easy way out. If Superman really wanted to make a better world, he should take it over and make it in his own image. That's what he should do if he was going to take the easy way out, but he doesn't. He's like, I'm just going to lead by example. If people take up to it, that's great. That's Superman. That's the normal Superman. This version is just like, oh god, my dad killed himself so nobody could find out I was Superman. It's like, that's not so much. I like that for Man of Steel too, but that's not Superman so much. Oh god, Jonathan Kent's in this movie
Yeah,
too.
it's
Where
like,
the
what the
fuck did
fuck?
that come from? Plot
Is
convenience.
Superman going crazy too? Is he gonna?
I don't know.
Is Cyborg gonna start giving him messages from the future now?
Oh, I mean, Batman
Right.
and Superman in this movie are both unsympathetic lunatics,
No,
but
no,
at least Batman makes sense as a lunatic.
no Jor-El holograms in this movie, which would have made more sense than a fucking like random ass ghost of Kevin Costner. Uh,
What a just like again, just really an epitome to me of why this doesn't work. Just because it just comes out of nowhere. There's no explanation for it. It doesn't make you really feel anything about it. His performance is great, but it just doesn't really mean anything. Its only purpose is to, hey, Superman, stop being a dickhead and go back and save people. That's it. And I don't even understand really why he left in the first place.
I mean,
I get that he was
really,
ashamed.
You really could have had a scene with Martha Kent, just telling him that story that the ghost of Jonathan Kent was telling him.
Here's how this movie should have gone down.
Jonathan Kent telling him to go save people is kind of interesting, since in the last movie, Superman was all like, "What was I supposed to do? Let him die? Maybe."
Retcon the movie is Jonathan Kent in this, because there's also scenes where it's like, oh, the dreams of a farmer from Kansas is Superman, and I'm like, what farmer are we talking about? Because that definitely wasn't Jonathan Kent's fucking dream. There's like one sequence in Man of Steel where they're sort of implying that that's what that version of Jonathan Kent wanted from Clark Kent,
I mean,
and that's when he's watching.
the scene when he's talking about when people find out what you can do, blah blah blah.
No, it's that, because that scene is why he shouldn't feel like Jonathan Kent would have wanted Superman. The scene I'm talking about is the very end where Jonathan Kent looks out to Clark and sees him playing around with the cape and everything.
Oh.
And that was the only moment in that movie where I was like, oh, okay, Jonathan Kent wanted this to happen one day. But like that, it just like that emotional resonance doesn't mean anything though. Just because I don't like when he pops up in this and he's trying to get Clark to go back to being Superman. I'm just like, I don't buy that he would be, because everything that he said is coming true. Like, people are scared, and people have a right to be scared because Superman is doing things that are scary. Why doesn't this Superman talk to the press? Or like put out a statement every now and then that goes, hey, I did not kill anyone.
I did not do it. It's bullshit.
If Superman really didn't kill anyone in the beginning, if Superman really didn't put that guy through a wall and killed him, then why didn't he fucking prove it? Like when he says to Lois, I didn't kill anybody in the desert, it sounded like it was like he was lying.
Yeah, other
Like, it
versions
sounded
of
like he was
Superman.
covering it up.
Other versions of Superman talk to the press all the time. That's basically what the Daily Planet is for. There's a line in
Yeah.
Superman Returns where Lois Lane is like, "I was basically his press agent," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty much true." I mean, for crying out loud, Christopher Reeves went up in front of the United Nations and was like, "Hey, nuclear war, no more. Putting it into it."
And this Superman does that too, and then it gets blown up.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I really wish I had a camera on me when Senator Finch, who's Holly Hunter's character, says to Superman, oh, she was, by the way, the best character in the movie. I said that Martha Kent was in one of my recent Facebook quotes. No, she is the best character in the movie because she's the only one that makes any goddamn sense. She fucking is the voice of reason in this shit show when she goes, see, to Superman who's there, this is a democracy. We talk to each other. And I'm just like, Superman, talk to somebody. Tell somebody what you want and how you're feeling, because I don't understand it. And you better fucking say something, otherwise I'm not on board for this little fight you're gonna have with Batman. And sure enough, no, nothing. By the way, I haven't even talked about.
Also, we never
I
had
never even talked about the fight. Wow.
we've never had anything of Superman like struggling with the fact that he had to kill Zod at the end of Man of Steel, which is
None
a
of that.
problem because everybody was kind of pissed that he had to do that, and I was like, yeah, they might ought to make that a plot point next time around, and they didn't.
Again, and also I love how like Superman's whole problem with Batman is that he's brutalizing criminals, and I'm just like, dude, what universe are you living in?
You pushed a dude through 2 concrete walls, 3 maybe.
You fucking snap the fucker's neck at the end of Man of Steel, and you're going around talking to people like, I'm gonna take you in without breaking you, or the bat is dead, bury it, consider this mercy. And I'm just like, this is not Superman. This is not how Superman talks to people. The Batman thing I'm okay with a little bit, just because he knows that Batman is a force to be reckoned with. But going up to, just like, even with the personal stakes that are involved in this Lex Luthor kidnapping Lois Lane and pushing her off a building, I don't like a Superman who is just so easily emotionally manipulated that he's instantly going to break his moral credo that he's supposed to have in this and is said to have. When he tells Lois that he's going to go kill Batman, he's just like, nobody stays good in this world. And I'm like, this movie is pretending like Superman's never killed anybody before, but he's killed in this movie. So I don't really understand why he goes, nobody stays good in this world. It's like, well, you were never good in the first place. Just because you fucking dragged a boat on some ice, you think that makes you a fucking good person? It's like, this Superman to me was never sold properly to me as Superman. He was just a guy with powers who occasionally does something good.
Also, you don't need Lex to kidnap Martha Kent. You don't need that to be a plot point at all. It would have been so much more interesting if the fight between him and Batman had just come about as a result of their debate throughout the film. Instead, you had to shoehorn in Lex to make him more of a threat in the movie. I'm sorry, Jesse Eisenberg is not threatening.
No, not even remotely.
And it's basically just a setup.
He's just cringeworthy.
It's basically just a setup for how they're going to make the two of them become friends, and that's just stupid as fuck.
I know everybody has already made that joke on the internet, but that scene from Step Brothers, did we just become good friends? Yup.
Because that's what happens.
Is Batman unaware of the fact that Martha is a pretty common female name, especially with females in that age bracket?
Well,
so here's what the movie thinks that it's doing.
Cool.
Kudos to this movie. Kudos to this movie for making me go, huh? Because I never thought about the fact that their moms had the same name before.
I thought about it millions of times before that, because you know what? It doesn't fucking mean anything. It's fucking a coincidence.
When I was watching the movie, they make it sound as if like the writers were thinking, "Oh, this is so clever.
That's why I wanted
to this
here's the thing, though.
Punch them in their fucking stupid faces.
I think the writers were expecting people to have this reaction. Oh, but instead they just got.
I'm just like.
But instead they just got, huh? Okay. Like that's
just like, okay, and what?
It's just stupid. And then that was the shoehorn in reason for why we needed to see Batman's parents get shot at the beginning of the movie, because Thomas Wayne is like, Martha, and then like that sets up the thing for the end, which kudos on foreshadowing, script writing 101.
I guess. I like that the Batman origin was incorporated in a way that was kind of important to the story in that way, but it was just the way in which it was important was fucking crap.
Like,
Also,
at least
it's
they
funny
brought it up
how
again, because if they had just showed his origin again for no reason, I would have been pissed off. Because when I was sitting there
I
in the
was
theater, I was like, do we really need this again? Does anybody
Yeah, I
sitting
thought the
in
same
this room
thing.
right now not know Batman's origin story?
I was gonna tell the projectionist to pause the movie so I could get up and go, all right, so hang on, let me tell you fuckers some truth here. Batman is just so we could skip that part.
It's kind of funny how if I noticed the movie posters when they were passing the Monarch Theater, and they were still watching the Mark of Zorro.
I was like, why aren't you watching like The Mask of Zorro?
Watching Antonio Banderas.
They're gonna get there at one point. They're gonna get there, and it's gonna be great when it finally happens. When it's like Batman and his fucking parents walk out of the fucking Mask of Zorro.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, what movie theater now is playing the Mark of Zorro?
I assume it was supposed to be like a throwback showing or
Yeah,
whatever.
like I guess how AMC would have their I forgot what they're called now. It's been a while, but yeah, they would have they would play an old movie for like one day only or for the weekend.
So I guess I just want to briefly mention my opinions on the fight because I didn't talk about it. It's visually awesome. Like,
yeah.
God, it's entertaining. It's underwhelming, I think, too, though. It's brief. It's very slow. Like, it's not really like a fast-paced action sequence. Zack Snyder doesn't know how to do that. It's very slow, and again, it makes sense why it's slow. Batman's wearing a big clunky suit, and Superman is weakened to shit. So it makes sense. I don't think it's what people wanted. I don't think it's the big climactic brawl that people were asking for, because it's not. It's
Well, and it was never supposed to be the
Superman
climax.
shows up. What?
Well, and it was never supposed to be the climax, is the thing.
And if it wasn't going to be, it shouldn't have been at the end. I was kind of astounded that they didn't have Batman and Superman have one kind of minor scuffle towards the beginning and then have the big climactic fight at the end.
I guess they were trying to have that when the two characters first met each other, but it didn't really count. It's like, hey, shoot Batman, stop doing bad things or I'm gonna come after you.
I was like, okay, Superman, this is the only scene that I'm sympathizing with you because, yeah, you should probably stop this fucking nonsense of Batman murdering dozens of people just to fucking get your ass with kryptonite. That Batmobile chase was awesome visually, but fucking just plot-wise, a total mess. Like, just wasn't into anything those people, like, just none of the people in that scene. I was like, I'm with this. It was just like, what is happening here?
Although I did feel a little giddy with joy when it's like when Superman just pops out of nowhere and he's just having that stare down.
Stop this fucking lunacy that was going on with Batman taking cars with a grappling hook and smacking them into other cars. It's like I was like, yes, Superman, please stop this lunatic. This movie almost played it like Batman was supposed to be the villain, which, I mean, it could have been interesting. Usually it's played the other way.
Yeah.
But like in this, Batman was like doing things where I was like, he's like a villain in this. I didn't sympathize with him to that extent in a lot of scenes. But anyway, so the fight was the best part, definitely. I actually didn't like the Doomsday fight at all, Andres. I thought that it was boring as hell. Like, you couldn't see anything. There wasn't really anything interesting done with the moves. I mean, Wonder Woman was the best part, definitely. But
I don't think we've mentioned Wonder Woman at all, really, so far.
She was awesome. I cannot wait for her solo movie. She was the best of the three.
Love Wonder Woman.
Performance-wise, character-wise, everything was great about her. I mean, her place in the story was fucking nonsense, but that's everything in this movie. So I just liked her as a presence. Did she have to be there? Fuck no. But it was fine that she was there. I also liked that they established that Wonder Woman is like 10 times more powerful than Superman in this movie. Like, I liked that because that's how it is in the comics too. So liked that. What else was I gonna say about the fight though? I wish I had more to say about the fight though, just because I wasn't even able to enjoy it.
Let me say something.
Sad.
Funny enough, I'm pretty sure the writers, if they learned anything from Man of Steel, they learned about how people's complain about destroying Metropolis. Every time they fought somewhere, they specifically went out of their way to say, "Oh, thank God this place has no people." Or Batman would go, or Wonder Woman's like, "Why did you bring Doomsday here?" "Oh, this place, the Gotham Wharf is devoid of people." They kept,
"There's nobody here.
There's no one here." I'm pretty sure there's no one here. Maybe there's
I love the moment on the news.
The homeless dude. Oh yeah, what's his name? Like Anthony Anderson or something? That the real life news reporter.
I loved it when on the news.
He's
some
like,
guy
thank God
was,
it's the weekend, so there's nobody here.
They got Anderson Cooper in
Anderson
a
Cooper, that's
Batman v
sorry.
Superman movie. Just say that line, and he says it dead serious. All the props in the world to him. You can't sell that without it sounding ridiculous and pandering to people who criticize the end of Man of Steel.
Anderson
I
Cooper
mean,
got the most expensive paycheck of the whole movie.
Oh, definitely. Is that true?
No, I'm just joking. I'm just saying.
Oh
Imagine.
god, no, he should have though, because like the fact that he sold that corny ass bullshit was amazing. It was funny though too, just because I'm like, a lot of superhero movies recently have been changing their stories to go along with people kind of criticizing the collateral damage in a lot of them now. And this was a movie where it was like, I thought kind of initially the collateral damage was going to be a part of the story. It wasn't. Uh, it was just kind of like, okay, so people didn't like Man of Steel for that reason, so we're going to give a little nod to that at the beginning with Bruce Wayne being at Metropolis. Oh, by the way, I loved that scene.
Yeah.
God, that was awesome. Where Bruce Wayne was running through the end of Man of Steel. That was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of wish it had more to do with the story. I mean, the biggest thing that happens in that scene is fucking Scoot McNairy from fucking Monsters getting his legs cut off. Oh, forgot to say that before. He was awful in this movie. Like, performance-wise, writing-wise, that character was such a waste of space. And even, I thought Scoot McNairy was bad in that role. He didn't have a lot to work with. His character was just an idiot and a lunatic. But I just thought his performance was just, it didn't do anything to fix that. But, I don't know, he was distractingly bad to me.
And the whole reveal where it's like Lex Luthor sent Bruce Wayne those mail with those cryptic messages. I'm like, why?
Yeah. Yet another
Superman
example.
already felt guilty enough.
Mm-hmm.
Yet another example of something that would have been way more interesting if it hadn't been part of Lex's plan. So many things in this movie you don't even need Lex for, and it would have actually been better if it had just been the other characters acting on their own. But no, because they have to shoehorn Lex into everything. So they have to be like, oh, and I sent the checks back. And I'm like, fuck you.
How? Why? Like,
Yeah.
why did you do that?
Like,
here's an example of one
Ben
thing.
Affleck didn't even look at the checks until earlier in this movie. What if he had never looked at them? You know?
Go
It's
ahead,
such a
Dave.
bad plan.
I was gonna say that one thing that they could have taken out that wouldn't have hurt the movie was the whole subplot with Lois Lane trying to like investigate the desert.
Yeah, they really should have chopped that down a bit because it wasn't like it was so fucking paper thin.
OMG, Lex Luthor's behind it all. Like, he's behind everything.
I couldn't even believe that. I mean, at least they didn't try and play it like it was a reveal. Like, it was pretty, like, they weren't like trying to play like they had fooled anybody. They were like, everybody knew Lex Luthor was supposed to be the villain, right?
Yeah, but he goes to jail at the end of the movie. We're assuming on the basis that he kidnapped Martha Kent, is responsible for the creation of Doomsday, and we're also assuming that because of the desert thing that he supplied the weapons. If you take out that desert scene and the subplot of Lois Lane trying to investigate who supplied the weapons, it still would not have affected why Lex Luthor got arrested at the end of the movie.
That's true because the desert scene is weird because all it does is establish that. Okay, the desert scene is bad for a whole bunch of reasons, but it's bad more so because it's one of the first scenes in the movie. It establishes the plot of the Superman side of this, where the thing in the moment that's getting everybody to not trust Superman is whether or not he killed those guys in the desert. But it was just such a bad way to bring that up. Now, again, this movie shouldn't have been set 2 years after Man of Steel. It should have been a little bit just like a couple, like half a year maybe. Like, they should have had to be a direct continuation because, like, there's just too many questions. There's too many, like, why is everybody waiting until now to react this way? Like, how come they weren't already having all this? Like, it was just a dumb, needlessly dumb thing to have happen in the here and now that got that side of things in motion. So I agree with you. They should have cut it, but they didn't need it for that reason, sadly.
I assumed the reason that they went 2 years in the future was so that they would have had enough time to rebuild Metropolis.
Oh, that's true.
But then again, I don't know why, because not that much happens in Metropolis in this movie.
No, Metropolis isn't really the thing. A lot of stuff happens in Gotham and kind of around the world.
Why did people build a statue for Superman?
I thought that was weird.
It's interesting because people in this movie seem to be very divided on Superman the same way that people were divided over Man of Steel. Like, half of the
Interesting,
people
right.
in this universe are all paranoid about Superman, and the other half are like, he's fucking awesome. Um, so that was kind of a plot point. And that was
Hmm.
again, so many interesting ideas in this movie that just fall through because it's trying to juggle too many balls.
Juggle too many balls, and it's butchered editing wise, and they're trying to do too much. They don't know what they want to do is also the issue. We're just watching like 5 or 6 different ideas here just have their day, and it's not a good day for those ideas. And it sucks because I think every single idea is good. Okay, here's what we'll do, because we've been going off on this movie for like an hour and a half now. I want everybody to name like a concept in this movie that didn't work execution wise, but also didn't work concept wise. So something that may not have worked in execution, but also didn't work concept wise. I want to find something
Oh,
bad in this movie's core. Andres, go.
okay. Lex Luthor supposedly being the patsy for Darkseid.
Yeah, I was going to bring
That
that up.
was dumb.
Okay, so my question was he in communication with Darkseid before the events of this movie, like sort of a Bruno Mannheim thing, or did he learn about Darkseid through the Genesis chamber when he went into that thing and like it was like tell me everything?
No,
Um,
there's a deleted scene that confirms that. Deleted scene. Remember, they put it up on their YouTube channel. It's where Lex Luthor is in the Genesis chamber, and you see a new god in the. It's not Darkseid, but you see a new god. In like the weird like fucking
okay, so he's
art
he's
art
supposedly
display that they have in there or whatever. You know that weird like nanite shit that they use to show shit in that universe.
yeah. So
That
he supposedly learned about it through the Genesis chamber. You know, it might have made more
not in the
sense.
movie though. So
But
It
he
might have
said
made
like the
more
whole
sense if he
reason
had just
why he's
been.
going after Superman was because he's like, oh, they're coming, this thing's coming, and we have to protect ourselves from Superman so we can learn to protect ourselves from this big dark side dude.
And you don't even
if
need it.
that was the point, I didn't get that.
And you don't even need it because anybody who paid attention to Batman's dream sequence saw the parademons flying around was like, oh, they're doing Darkseid.
They
Um,
didn't even have to mention Darkseid or Apocalypse at all, anything connected to it outside of that dream sequence. Because
But then
what
why
I
is
thought that
Batman having the dream sequence?
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't
I mean,
understand.
if he's afraid of Superman taking over the world, I can imagine that. That seems to be
That should have been what it was
but
though,
no, it seems
because
to be a future vision of, oh, in the future, Lois Lane will die, so Superman's gonna go evil like in Injustice, Gods Among Us.
it was a mix of 2 different storylines. It was a mix of the Superman Son of Darkseid story and a mix of Injustice, where in a lot of continuities, Darkseid kidnaps Superman and this happens in the animated series in a
Yeah.
great harder, where Darkseid kidnaps Superman and brainwashes him, and then makes him think that he found Kal-El on Apocalypse from Krypton and has raised him to be his son. And that story is always fascinating. That doesn't really seem to be what's going on here, but it looks like a decent mix of that, where Superman joins forces with Darkseid, because you can tell that the Superman soldiers are in league with the Parademons because they're
Right.
helping. The Parademons help those soldiers take down Batman. I also, a random note, I loved the way that nightmare sequence was shot, the fight scene in particular, because you had this great shot where like Batman was fighting all these dudes in the ground and the camera never left the ground, but there was a lot of stuff going on in the sky and the parademons were coming down. It created this very scary like perspective of like all this hell just coming down, and then this demon comes towards the camera. That was great. Beautifully shot movie again. Fucking gorgeous movie. Also amazing soundtrack. Junkie XL and Hans Zimmer did an amazing job.
I'm probably the
But
only one here that's not a big fan of the new Batman theme.
I'm not crazy about it.
I can't
It's
even
okay.
I can't even remember it.
I
I
don't
just
remember.
the only track.
Bum, 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 bum.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's how it goes.
you know what? It kind of sound little bit more towards like the Danny Elfman thing, where it's like more focused on the
It's
horns.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
too much of a mix between that and the Hans Zimmer one. They shouldn't have like tried to find a middle ground. They should have come up with something new.
Yeah, like the battle sequence end theme, where it was like more of like electric guitar ish thrown into the mix.
Yeah. Dylan, were you gonna say something?
No, I was just in agreement with what you were saying about the score. Thing is, I don't really remember Batman's theme like at all. from this movie.
Bum,
Other than
bum, 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 bum.
The only thing that stood out to me in the score was when they used the Superman theme from the last movie, because it's like,
yeah,
oh, I recognize that.
Can I make a point about that? Okay. Big Superman fan.
Yeah.
I'm somebody who some days I can't decide who I like more, Batman or Superman.
It's not
And
even a decision for me. Anyway.
I understand, but I'm a humongous Superman fan, so like that guy is like my life.
Yeah.
And the part of the thing with this movie that kind of bugged me was I love the Hans Zimmer Superman theme. I think it's great. I think it's underrated.
Mm-hmm.
I think too many people are too devoted to the Christopher Reeve version of Superman. Like, I'm totally fine with that version being dead. I just don't love this new version. And part of the issue with this movie's Superman side of that is that the theme that's used from his side of it is just the da-da, da-da, da-da. That's all we ever get to hear.
Yeah.
Because every time he's on screen, he is always doing something so mopey or so fucking sad
We can't have
that there's never a reason for the dun, 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 bah, dun, dun, dun. There's no good Superman action.
Yeah.
He never does anything in this movie to be worthy of the Superman theme. How questionable is that? Like, to have a Superman movie where you're supposed to have a version of Superman that dies and makes an impact on the world, where people, like, he means something to people, where they're able to make something where it's like, look around you, you're his monument, and that's supposed to mean something. And yet you don't have a moment in this film where Superman gets to be Superman and has that big triumphant theme.
Well, he has that moment where he kills Doomsday, and it plays the same theme when he's fighting Zod in Man of Steel.
I actually really liked that moment where Superman was with Doomsday, because it was the most badass thing that he did in the whole fucking movie, where he's stabbed in the chest. And this is why I like Superman. This because some people are like, oh, he's too powerful, and the only reason he does what he does is because he has powers. Well, yes, but he shows his worth as a legitimate hero in that moment, because with no powers, crippled by kryptonite, held by a giant monster that has just basically killed him, he fucking grabs Doomsday and drags Doomsday closer to him, pushing the barb through his chest more, but just so he can push the kryptonite staff into Doomsday's heart.
Yeah.
Great moment. Butchered by everything going on around it, but great moment. I didn't like that Doomsday fight at all. It was way too long. I love how the Doomsday fight was longer than the Batman versus Superman fight. What? Like, didn't like that at all.
I guess, like,
If anything,
only because the Batman versus Superman fight is supposed to represent like the ending of the second act and go into the third act.
I get that, but I just don't think it works. And also, the Doomsday fight is so lackluster compared to the Batman v Superman fight. It's a bunch of people fighting a giant monster. Whoa, how many times have we seen that before in a superhero movie? You know what we haven't seen? Batman fights Superman on screen. Whatever, we'll have some contrived reason for it to happen because it's in the title, and then they'll be friends. Letdown, man. Complete letdown. But okay. So we were on a point, and we lost it, which the point was bad concepts inherently bad in this movie. Does anybody else have anything that was bad from the get-go?
So I didn't really understand the science of how Doomsday comes about in this movie. I don't really understand how dead Kryptonian plus human blood equals genetic abomination. Like, it wasn't really explained why Lex had to, like, add his blood to anything.
So that was supposed to be a whole bunch of references to a whole bunch of shit.
It was
okay.
It was stupid in Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, and was stupid here.
Okay, well the thing is though, that's from the comics.
Okay.
So in the comics, the version of Superboy that's made post-Crisis is so Cadmus, right?
No, good
we
old
all know
Cadmus.
Cadmus, right?
Yeah.
Good old Cadmus. Good times.
So, by the way, I'm shocked that Cadmus isn't in this. Like, this is prime.
Not even a Star. Not even a Star Labs or anything.
Star Labs is there. That's where Cyborg is built.
Oh, okay.
But
maybe we could drop a Cadmus reference in the Suicide Squad movie. We got Amanda Waller coming up.
I imagine they probably will. But in that, Cadmus uses the DNA of Lex Luthor and Superman to make Superboy. I don't remember why, but that's what they did.
Yeah, and they adapted that for the Young Justice animated series.
And did it better than the comics. And in this, Lex as a reference to that, uses his DNA in Doomsday's, but it's just a reference to that. It means nothing aside from that. If the idea is supposed to be that
That he wanted that
his
thing to be his son, like his legacy or something.
his thing that he was able to create something from himself that was able to kill Superman, I understand why that would mean something to
Maybe
him,
if
but
it was
that's never said.
No,
maybe if
he
it was
said he's like,
somehow-
it's not man versus God. I'm gonna have devil versus God.
Yeah, no, it's
It
not
would have
like
made
that.
sense if it was supposed to like make Doomsday like obedient to him. Like I would have bought that if they had explained that.
Well,
They didn't
he
explain
kind of
that.
said he.
But he's the
just
Joker
doesn't-
in this, though, Dylan. He just wants chaos.
It just doesn't make any sense. You know, it's like, you know, the Doomsday is supposed to be this ancient Kryptonian abomination that was like banned. But apparently you can just is he just created by like corrupting Kryptonian DNA? Could you do that with blood from any like species?
Well, so again, the thing is that that's from the comics as well. There are versions of Doomsday more recently that are Kryptonian. In the comics, you do that's what you do. You take a Kryptonian, you fuck up the genes, and you get a Doomsday. And in that, I think Superman actually turns into Doomsday at one point. And that was the idea. In the 90s, Doomsday had a different origin when he was brought in. He was a genetic experiment by some planet who was trying to create the ultimate life form that could not be killed. Because one of Doomsday's powers is that whatever killed him the last time that he died will not kill him this time. He's the ultimate. He's basically. His superpower is evolution, basically. Darwinian adaptation.
Well, kind of, but the thing that everyone always mistakes when it comes to evolution is that evolution occurs over multiple generations, not a single organism.
Well, I know, but that's why Doomsday has it as a superpower. Is that it happens in his own body.
Yeah,
like those fucking idiots, Andres, that are like, oh yeah, well, if evolution's true and man came from monkeys, then why are there still monkeys? And I just wanted to like,
and it's
because
like, well,
evolution,
not every
evolution,
monkey transformed into a man.
I just want to like,
that
evolution branches out.
I just want to like take those people and just like close their windpipe and just like.
So Dylan, you want to be Batman?
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm gonna beat the crazy out of them.
I don't know of anything better to do in life than be
stop
Batman.
being bad. That's Batman.
Don't judge me.
One thing about growing
I'm gonna fucking machine gun people until they stop being bad. That's how they learn.
One thing about
That's how I do it. That's how America does it. Wait, wrong hero.
I do think that there was a little bit of an attempt in this, though, to make Bruce Wayne a little bit of a Tony Stark knockoff.
Yeah.
A little bit.
That's one thing about being in the South. If there's a bad anti-science argument, I've heard it.
I'm sure.
Anyway.
But David, you've been quiet for a long time. Why don't you take us in a direction?
Well, first and foremost, I really hated that one scene where Flash travels through Bruce's dream.
Yeah, that scene made me go, DC, what the fuck are you guys doing? Nobody's gonna get that. Number one being the Flash doesn't look like the Flash, so nobody who doesn't get that's what that's supposed to be isn't gonna get it. If you had made him look like the Flash, that might have been something, but he looks nothing like the fucking Flash. David, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That was 100% Zack Snyder's idea. I think DC was all like, go ahead. We're trying to set up Justice League anyway, so might as well. But still, that scene is an example of what I didn't like about this movie, is that the whole movie is basically the DC Extended Universe's version of Iron Man 2, where it's basically just...
definitely.
It's just setting up Justice League. That's what this movie is, basically.
Absolutely true, David. That was the perfect way to say it. So I think Andre said this before.
They're definitely taking an Iron Man 2 approach, because like I read earlier today that they're going to be like introducing Cyborg in the Flash movie and have those two like a team.
Which is fine. Marvel's doing that too, and I'm totally fine with that. But this movie, Andre, you said it the best before. This movie is the worst parts of Iron Man 2 and Age of Ultron. Made into a movie. This is Avengers Age of Ultron if it wasn't any fun. It's just a kind of soulless mess. And Age of Ultron's kind of messy at points. That's not a perfect movie. And
especially
when I don't like people that...
Yeah.
I don't like this whole Marvel bias thing that people are complaining about. That people aren't liking this movie just because they like Marvel and they don't want DC to succeed. Who fucking cares? Like, just... even if that exists, that's their problem. Like, if they don't want to enjoy something just for the sake of not enjoying it, that's their problem. I went into this wanting to love it, and I was let down. So, just wanted to say that as well.
Yeah, like,
but anyway, yeah, Dave, I'm with you. That was dumb.
Are there people who are so devoted to one comic company that they like despise the other one and want it to
Oh yeah,
die?
that's
Like,
still very much so a thing. Marvel Zombies are still very much so a thing.
ugh. I knew
But
that
anyway,
I
I knew
mean,
that like Star Wars and Star Trek fans had that, but
even among like the Marvel movies, they're not all perfect. They all have their issues when
oh
trying to build
no,
bridge continuity together between films.
but you know what it is? Marvel makes you care. They put a lot of work into making you give a fuck about their characters and
also
about their universe.
Hmm.
Marvel in a lot
Even
of
if like,
cases, not every time,
uh-huh.
but in many cases, Marvel is a lot more subtle about it. Like you'll have something in Captain America that's clearly Asgardian, and so if you've seen Thor, you can be like, in this, it's like, hey, here's an email with all the members of the Justice
With
League in it.
the logos of the fucking character. Oh, that really did it for me. Why did you need that? Like it was just like, why couldn't it just say it should have been each of their powers like listed as a file type, like, or even if it gave them code names.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was dumb. David, who was your favorite performance in the film?
Oh, definitely Ben Affleck.
Something I was asking you actually a question. We talked a lot about Ben Affleck already, so I kind of want to move on to this point. What did you guys think of Henry Cavill? Nobody's talking about him.
As I said before,
I
it's
think
consistent.
yeah. So let's
We've
talk about
mentioned
it.
that.
So Superman in this movie is kind of a non-entity in the sense of he doesn't really do anything. And I think that part of that is that whoever they have to write these movies do not know what to do with
David
Superman.
Goyer.
They don't know what to do with Superman. They clearly don't like or are knowledgeable enough about that character
Mhm.
to work with his powers and characterization and do something interesting
Maybe they
with him
were.
outside of the
Yeah.
origin and kill him. So I have a problem with that as a big Superman fan.
It's
And again, I get it. He's a tough character to write sometimes, but even still,
Well, I mean,
fucking do something about it.
this movie is way more of a Batman movie until the very end when they kill Superman and they're like, "Hey, you all care about him, right?"
See, I
You
actually
you guys remember Death of Superman, right?
see. I actually
Remember that was a thing that
disagree.
happened in the comics, huh? Uh,
I've been hearing that this is more of a Batman movie than it is a Superman movie. I actually kind of disagree. I think that Superman has more of a strong characterization in this than Batman does. At the very least, I understand him more. But maybe that's just because we have a movie with him previous. But I thought that this movie was a little bit more of a Superman movie. I thought the Batman side of things were rather underdeveloped and kept in the background, except for the stuff that they needed to bring to the forefront, which I was actually kind of glad about because this should have been more Superman's movie. But I don't know. That was just my opinion. I
Like,
get why people
wasn't this
felt that
movie
way about it.
supposed to be advertised as Man of Steel 2, but then they went back and said, no, this is not Man of Steel 2. We're gonna have Man of Steel 2 eventually.
wasn't the plan eventually to do Man of Steel 2 and then they were going to do a Batman v Superman movie and then they decided just to make this the second one? Um,
Okay. Man of Steel underperformed, and nobody really
Right.
talks about this, but it did.
Yeah.
People kind of forget.
Like, it was
That
technically successful, but it wasn't at this.
it made its money back, and they profited off of it, but it didn't do the numbers that they wanted
Yeah,
it to.
yeah,
And the thing is, they wanted it to do Dark Knight numbers.
yeah.
DC just I don't understand them. They think that they can get away with making everything a Dark Knight situation where everything is going to make the same amount of money as the Dark Knight just because they do this, this, and this to set that up. Um, and that's what they expected when they had everybody who made the Dark Knight make Man of Steel, and why they called it Man of Steel.
Hmm.
And it didn't happen for them. And then they figured the problem was, oh, we didn't have Batman, so we'll have Batman in this. And that wasn't the fucking problem. The problem was that they made a movie that people didn't care about because it didn't tell a story about people with feelings. And that's the problem here too. Is that DC? The problem isn't that your movie is too dark or that doesn't have Batman in it or whatever. It's that you don't tell stories about people who you make us care about. You just make commercials for other things. But anyway, so Henry Cavill just suffers the fate of that. Just in my opinion, just doesn't get anything interesting to say or do.
yeah, I mean, okay,
Um,
so beginning of the movie, he shows up in the desert, kills that guy. Then he shows up at the Senate meeting, and then the bomb goes off. And that's pretty much it for Superman, isn't it? Until he stops Batman from chasing those criminals. Um,
doesn't that happen before that? Doesn't Superman stop Batman from chasing the criminals before the hearing?
I'm
Yeah,
not
before the
sure.
hearing.
It's been longer since I've seen it than you.
I watched it Thursday, so I have this movie's pretty fresh for me,
Mhm.
and I saw it sober this time as opposed to the time before that.
It's
Um,
it's been a week for me. So,
And I saw it yesterday.
but
so yeah,
anyway,
Andres, he stops Batman right before the hearing, I think, like almost.
Yeah, pretty much. And
Mhm.
yeah, for the most of the for most part, he was just moping about because he's trying to realize his place in the world. And I thought, again, that's a good idea. That's an idea that some people have tried with in the past in Superman fiction.
One of them called Man of Steel. We'd had this movie already,
Yeah.
guys. He found his place in the world. What the fuck? His question should not be, who am I? What am I for? His question should be, what should I do
yeah,
with
you know
these
the
abilities?
whole
How
concept,
far can I take it? How far can I push Superman? That should have been the
the
question.
whole
But
concept
no,
of
they're
what
just
would happen.
retreading from the last film.
You could even have him grappling with the same questions that everybody else is grappling with in the movie. The whole question of what would happen if Superman went bad, because that in and of
I'm
itself is
sure he thinks about that every second of his fucking life, but he
because
doesn't
that in
fucking
and of
talk about it.
itself is a really interesting idea. It's one of my favorite things you can do with that character.
I mean, that's what I guess
Example that
that's
I
a
example that I
Superman
always
Red
point
Sun.
and that another example I always point to is in the Justice League when they did the whole Justice Lords thing.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, Justice Lords was also a little bit influence for this. So yeah,
where one of the first things you see him do is fucking kill Lex Luthor. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting concept. There's so many interesting ideas in this movie.
wouldn't it have been better if Batman's thing in this movie, the thing that Flash came back in time to prevent Superman from doing, was killing Lex Luthor?
That would be great. That'd be cool.
What if the dark nightmare future came from Superman kills Lex Luthor, decides that that's the way he has to handle everything, and goes crazy?
So
And that's
basically,
why Batman.
just the Justice Lords. I like it. I like it a lot.
It would have been better than whatever the hell this thing was. Like this
Yeah.
vague dark side. Lois Lane is gonna eventually almost die. Wait, hang on. Maybe the Lois Lane death thing that Flash mentions
Flash Man.
was what?
You said Flash Man?
Did I?
Yeah. I was like, are we talking about Super Sentai now?
Oh God,
Or a
Flashman.
Mega Man boss.
the Flash. It's late. Excuse me. So when Flash says, "Yo, save Lois Lane," was the idea supposed to be that when Lois is drowning, trying to go get the kryptonite towards the end, that was the moment
No.
where Superman saves Lois Lane? Because I thought maybe the idea was supposed to be that Batman wasn't supposed to kill Superman, so that way he could save Lois. But Superman would be dead then, and I don't know. Never mind. That doesn't make any sense.
No,
That doesn't
that's
work.
the problem. They're clearly setting something up for a future movie. And so that
Yeah.
whole thing that Flash comes back through time and does that thing for doesn't come to fruition in this film. And I'm like, well, why didn't you just have him come back in time and warn Batman about this in whatever fucking movie it's relevant to
How
instead of
about
now?
you use all the elements to set up Justice League to tell the story you are now? And what pisses me off is that they had everything in place to do that. Having the Justice League form out of the death of Superman is almost brilliant. That's been an idea that fans have talked about for a long time. Ian, Sid Part 2, who enjoyed this movie a lot, and I think part of that is because they stole this fucking idea, which was to have the Justice League spin out of the death of Superman.
Like doing
And
it in his honor because he died doing what he believed in doing. He died sacrificing himself to for the betterment of mankind. And it's like, let's do that.
if I understood any of these people on an emotional or psychological or philosophical level, that would be almost brilliant. But because I don't, it just all comes off as convoluted nonsense. It just comes off as, well, what are you trying to get at here? What is the story of this movie? And if we did a plot synopsis in this thing, I couldn't even fucking attempt because I don't know what the fuck this thing is about. Because to say that it's about Batman fighting Superman is inaccurate. It's not. The movie has to come up with so many fucking excuses to get them to fight that it's not about that. It's about, here's what it's about. It's about Superman being really scary and a lunatic in a Batman costume telling us that we should be scared. And I'm like, yes, but you're both really scary, so I don't know who to side with here. So I don't know what I was talking about, but I don't like it.
About what the movie's about.
Yeah. Oh well, yeah, certainly not that. So yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of good here, just none of it gets used right. So let's cover some things we haven't talked about. What did you guys? And we've covered a lot of bases already. Wow,
Yeah.
I'm kind of impressed. Usually we struggle to make sure we cover everything. Hmm. I don't know. Is there anything that you guys wanted? Are you okay? Here's a big question. We've been talking a lot about setup for the Justice League in this. Are you guys excited for that movie?
I'm more so curious. Well, I'm excited. I'm
Same.
excited to see more Wonder Woman. That's for sure.
I'm really pumped for her solo movie. I think that has the potential to
Something
be
that
great.
I've
Same thing
always-
with Suicide Squad.
It's something that I've always wanted to happen. It's something that I always imagined would have happened before the Avengers happened. What a strange world we live in, where Marvel did it first, especially since
Yeah.
DC's had been doing superhero movies since the fucking 70s. But
And their
I mean,
heroes
Marvel-
are their heroes are more recognizable.
I mean, Marvel like put some faith in its audience and like tried, and yeah, they made a they
Can
they
you
did
imagine-
it. DC is like Batman.
can you imagine a world where, like in the early 90s, we had like a Christopher Reeves and Michael Keaton Batman Superman movie?
We just saw it. It was called Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Because this feels like the Batman Superman movie they would have made in like 1994, and I would have been like, as a kid, wow, this is the fucking sickest shit ever. And now I'm like, what?
Gene Hackman would have been Lex Luthor, and he'd be like, his scheme would have something to do with real estate.
Again, this is all starting to make more sense now that you're adding all these things. And if Gene Hackman was this Lex Luthor, I would have been like, okay.
Psychotic is
Makes
a three-syllable
sense.
word for things that are too big for the human mind.
Some men, Mr. Wayne, look at the ingredients on a chewing gum wrapper and they unlock the secrets of the universe.
Land. It's the one thing they're not making any more of.
Dylan, how about you? Justice League. Oh, you said you were curious.
Yeah, it's
David, how about
something
you?
that I've always wanted to see happen. Now the way that they've set it up, I'm like, so it's probably gonna
I just
suck.
don't
But
care.
it's probably gonna suck. But I'm still gonna watch it. But it'll probably
It's
suck.
starting to feel more and more like that one Bruce Timm animated movie. What was it? Like
really-
Justice League Gods and Monsters.
Oh, Gods and Monsters. Yeah, I mean, in this, it's you got a god fighting a monster.
I'm really
so yeah.
interested to see Aquaman's solo movie now. I can't wait for a whole 2 hours of this.
Well, no, fucking. Oh, don't worry. The director of Aquaman came out recently, and he was like, "Don't worry, everyone. My movie's going to be very different from Batman v Superman." So we know that he knows. He knows. So I think we're okay on that front.
God, I hope.
Also, Jason Momoa looks like he's like into this, as opposed to everybody else who looks like they're fucking sad.
Yeah, he was swimming with enthusiasm. I'll give him that much.
Oh, I don't know. I just. How do you guys feel about Aquaman's design?
I'm digging it. I'm really digging this.
It reminds me of the
Aquaman's design.
Justice League Unlimited.
It makes sense.
Costume.
I never bought the short blonde-haired Aquaman. Really.
Yeah.
I mean.
Mm-hmm. I think it's cool too. The only problem I have with it is it's a little bit too like in your face about like we're making Aquaman cool. I'm just like it's a little bit too much, guys.
Well,
like
they're basing it.
He's fine enough already with the long hair and shirtless. Like that's already enough to make him not the fucking weenie that everybody fucking remembers from Super Friends. You've already got it. You didn't need to fucking give him black hair and tattoos.
Well, aren't they
again,
basing him off the early '90s Aquaman?
Yes, absolutely, and
Again,
that's what I
this is
like.
already
'Cause that's the best
something-
version.
This is already something that they did better in the animated universe. Doing the whole Aquaman's a badass now, which apparently people who are acquainted with his comics are like, he's been a badass the whole time, and the rest of us are just making jokes at his expense. all
Yeah,
the
it's
time.
like this dude, he can survive under extreme pressure, so he's practically bulletproof. He's super strong, super intelligent. Some versions of him can move water. He's a waterbender. He can control the 7 oceans. He can control an army of fucking sharks.
He can talk.
Yeah,
to
that
fish.
moment in Justice League Origin was badass, where he summons a whole bunch of fucking giant sharks to attack Darkseid.
He can talk to
I want
fish.
that movie that moment in the Justice League movie.
And also marine mammals, for some reason he can talk to them too, but mostly fish.
Yeah.
Um,
The Martian gets into that. It's like how come he can talk to whales? He's only supposed to be able to talk to fish.
And then he said at one moment, he's like, no, I don't talk to fish. Have you tried talking to fish? They have nothing to say.
Yeah. Word. All right, so we're almost we're not out of time. We could go for as long as we fucking want, but we're almost at 2 hours. So I'm trying to think of I can't think of anything major that I haven't brought up already that I wanted to get into.
How about that cyborg clip?
Oh, so let me just say this. I saw this movie with my brother.
Uh-huh.
My brother is my absolute favorite fucking person in the world. Sorry, Andre. Sorry, Dylan. Sorry, David. But my brother is a fucking G.
Oh,
And
by myself,
and there was some.
I guess this call is over.
Is that supposed to be BoJack Horseman?
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
that is BoJack Horseman.
I'm glad you know of BoJack Horseman, David.
That makes me happy.
Thanks
thought
to
it was
Andres,
before-
I got into BoJack Horseman.
Fuck yeah. Anyways,
Yeah,
your
that
brother.
show's great. My brother at one point turns to me while watching this movie. My brother, his opinion on it was, I didn't think it was good, but the action was cool. And I was like, that is a smart assessment of this film. And at one point, my brother turned to me during the fucking scene. I don't remember what scene. I think it was actually during the Batmobile chase where he goes, Billy, I don't think this movie is for kids. And I fucking died because I was just like, my brother is 19 and he fucking my brother is basically a big kid and he was able to
Yeah.
call out like this movie is clearly not for kids. And I'm like, that is a thing. Yet this movie is trying to like sell you on all this commercial shit, but it's clearly not for kids.
Right. There's
How do you
so
guys
many
feel about
toys.
that, by the way?
There's so many toys and all this stuff marketed. I mean, it's Batman, Superman. They're clearly, these were characters that were originally meant for a younger audience. These are
So how do you guys feel about this interpretation of them being so fucking violent?
Doesn't bother me. Fuck kids.
Yeah, not really. I mean, I grew up with some violent shit back in the day. I mean,
I don't care either.
89.
Yeah, everyone,
Batman.
yeah, not Michael Keaton, or it's like, heck, The Dark Knight. I'm pretty sure a lot of
I
kids
think
grew up
the
with The Dark
branding,
Knight.
the branding is the thing that's causing a lot of people to go, I ain't taking my kids to see this bullshit. And I understand that Batman branding people
Yeah,
is fucked up.
I remember our friend James Biggie. He was a little concerned also about like wanting to take his son to see Batman v Superman.
And I think that that's a valid thing.
Yeah, I think he did eventually decide to take his son, but it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a thing
I
that
saw some pictures on Facebook of him and his son going to see
Yeah.
it. So
that was
My
cool.
surveillance cameras told me that when it happened.
I mean,
so,
it's
you know, I was good.
PG-13. It's PG-13. At least this cut is, and there were plenty of kids in the theater that I saw it in. Of course, this was opening day, middle of the day, so it was pretty packed in there.
Uh-huh.
There were all kinds of people.
You see, it's weird though, because it's like when I think about it, I'm like, well, I would have watched it as a kid, no problem. But it's like like that was me. My parents didn't give a fuck about what I watched when I was a kid.
Like my friend,
So-
my parents were like, it's like logic or anything. It's like, go ahead.
Andres, can you repeat that? Because you cut out. We didn't hear that point.
Okay, what I said was that my parents were basically like, if it's fantasy, sci-fi fiction, any sort of thing, it's not based in any sort of real world logic or sense. It's like, go ahead, go to town.
Yeah, that's what my parents were like. They were like, it's not real, so who fucking cares?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
That's how I am the way I am.
You can't shield your kids from violence. Violence exists in the world. They're gonna learn about it someplace. Might as well be in a movie.
And fantasy violence is probably the best way to go about it, guys. To be like, well, listen, kids, violence sucks. That's the other thing. You always have to establish it to a point where violence is there's negative consequences for it. That's also why I'm not so cool with Batman killing people, because it's like he kills them so haphazardly that I'm just like, this is kind of like, if kids are going to see this movie, I don't know if that's the version of Batman that they should be seeing, especially since a lot of them are being introduced to Batman for the first time in this movie. But I don't know. I don't think this movie is really meant for kids. I think this was made for more of a mature crowd, which is fine. I've been waiting for a Batman or Superman movie that was more for adults for a long time. I just
we
didn't
kind of
think
already
it was going to
got
be
that with
this one.
we kind of already got that with the DC animated movies.
I don't care about those though. So, I don't know. I just kind of felt I have conflicting feelings on that, and I have a lot of conflicting feelings on this movie. I think I feel like I don't like it, but I don't like the fact that I don't like it.
Mhm.
So I feel the need to
Kind
constantly
of
contradict.
like
myself.
in Captain Logan's review of Man of Steel.
Oh, did he say? Yeah, he did bring that up, didn't he?
Yeah.
That review was awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, very comprehensive analysis. If you want like just Man of Steel laid out on a fucking cold table, watch Captain Logan Superhero Rewind on it, because it's a fucking expose on everything that movie does right and everything it does wrong. So go watch that. It's great. It's an hour and 15 minutes long.
I think it was like his superhero rewind on the Dark Knight Rises. How he was upset that he didn't have that same enthusiasm that everyone had initially.
Yeah, and that was kind of my thing, where I was like, people were liking it, and I was like, God, I wish I liked this, because it's got some cool stuff in it. Just again, visually, I almost wish I could just like Zack Snyder on a visual sense, because God, he knows how to make a movie.
Yeah. At least he knows. Yeah, he knows how to make a good movie when the story is already provided to him, like Watchmen or.
He knows how to
Dawn of the Dead.
make the visual part of a movie. Was my point.
Yeah.
But But even then, this movie's too long too. Did you guys find it boring? Because I was
like I
bored by
said,
it.
it's like I thought this movie was coming to a natural end an hour in, saying, "Okay, we're gonna get to the fight." Oh shit, there's still more movie left.
Yeah. David, did you find it boring?
Well, yeah, at times, and that's why I felt like this movie could have benefited from another uh, editing cut, because there's so many things that you could have cut out. Like, for example, before Bruce, that scene where Bruce tells Alfred, I have to break into Lex Luthor's tonight. And Alfred's all like, you don't have to. Bruce Wayne's been invited. Then it cuts to a scene where Bruce Wayne is staring into the Batman costume. And I was like, what the fuck's the point of that scene? And then it cuts to the party.
Why didn't he just show up at the party?
Yeah, you could have just cut from Alfred saying he's been invited and then cut to the party. And the cut would have made sense. But it's.
You know why they left it in?
Why?
That's the only scene with the Robin costume in the whole movie. He walks past the Robin costume and leaves.
Oh.
That's the only reason
Which
they left
they
it in.
should have used for a conversation between him and Alfred to explain why he's gone so cuckoo bananas. But no, they didn't do that. No.
Zack Snyder, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna slap you on the back of the head, just like a pissed off nun, man. I'm just gonna fucking go.
Then again, maybe that's in the extended cut.
I don't care at this point. I'm just like whatever, man. The cut that I watched in theaters was such a mess that I'm just like whatever that thing is, and it'll be what it is, and I just won't be able to.
Maybe this will be one of those things where like
give
the
a shit.
theatrical cut sucks ass, but then you watch the extended cut and you're like, they should have just released this.
If that's the case, I will eat my words that I just said right now. But as for the moment, I don't know. I'm interested as fuck to see it, but I don't know if it's gonna make me care about this universe. Is what I'm saying. Maybe it will. If it does that, I'll be incredibly impressed. But yeah, Dave, I'm with you. They really could have cut a lot out, but they should have added a whole lot more back in though, because just don't understand a whole bunch of people's fucking thoughts in this thing.
Yeah, because it really suffers from an editing issue and a screenwriting issue. I think David
definitely.
Goyer's just really not feeling it anymore.
I don't think he wants to write this crap, and if so, I don't blame him. But just go off and do something else. Like, you're only hurting these things the longer you stay attached to them if you're not interested in it anymore. And I think that's Zack Snyder's thing too. Maybe not. Zack Snyder seems like he's kind of into it, but I don't know. Even him, like it seems like DC's just kind of like, who's had some success with our superheroes in the past? Zack Snyder, Christopher Nolan, and David Goyer. So let's just use them.
Meanwhile, you have Marvel, who's like trying to spread out amongst a bunch of other talented directors and writers.
I was saying this back when Man of Steel came out. Not every superhero works in the same way that Batman works. You can't just write all of these movies as if they're Batman movies. You know, the whole dark and gritty approach works fine in the Dark Knight trilogy. It's very easy to do that with Batman. It doesn't lend itself as well to something like Superman. When you look at the Marvel,
it can work. Importantly,
when you look at the Marvel films, you find that each Marvel film, while similar in certain ways, I think there is a sort of overall unifying tone to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But
I definitely think so. Yeah.
But each individual movie is still unique, you know.
And then Marvel has stuff like Daredevil, which isn't like that at all. It's incredibly dark.
Right. They understand that you have to take different approaches for each character. The problem with Man of Steel is that they just tried to come in and say, hey, we're going to do Superman the exact same fucking way we did Batman, and people will pay to see it. And then in this movie, it's like they didn't even know what they wanted to do. It's like, okay, well, we'll bring back Batman, and so it'll be dark because Batman's there, but then you still don't know what to do with Superman, so he just won't do that much, and it just becomes a confusing mess, really.
It does indeed. Okay, so we're about 2 hours in. So here's what I think we'll do. Everybody will go round robin, bring up anything you wanted to say, and we'll get it out now or forever hold your peace, because I don't know if we're ever going to talk about this thing again. Don't worry, we definitely will talk about it next week. So let me just go first. So I'm going to forget mine because it's really minor and a total nitpick. So another problem I have with this movie.
The ears are too short. The ears are too short on Batman.
Yes, but that's not the problem.
Pisses me the fuck off. I hate short Batman.
His neck is too big too. What the fuck is wrong with that? Like, it's horrible. It looks like he looks like he's fat, and Batman should never look fat.
Also,
and I get that it was based on the Dark Knight Returns suit, but they shouldn't have taken it that.
I know they took it straight out of the comics, but I don't like the fat bat symbol. To me, it looks like some retarded fifth grader drew it.
Well, they also did that so that way the Superman symbol could fit inside of it.
Oh, very important.
Why don't you just put it on the bottom like they always do? You don't have to have the Batman thing arc down. Like, just have the Superman thing on the bottom of the point. Like, that's what they always do.
I don't
Anyway.
like my Batman horns too short. I don't like them too long either. Very important distinction when they switched over from Batman TAS to Justice League. The ears were a little too long. There's a nice middle area. There's a sweet spot you gotta hit.
Oh. I totally agree. Batman, though, speaking of him, he only gets called Batman once in the entire movie.
Nobody cares.
Every other time...
Nobody cares if Clark Kent takes on the Batman.
The Bat! The Bat! The Bat of Gotham! The Bat! I'm like, if you call him the Bat one more time, I'm gonna punch somebody, because that's dumb. Who calls him the Bat? Like, just call him the Batman. Why just the Bat?
Well,
like, was it some weird attempt to make this version, like, different? It was stupid. It sounded weird.
In other versions, people have called him the Bat, like, sparingly,
like gangsters.
But like, oh look, it's the Bat. That's fine. But it's just like, that's a term of endearment,
like the two crooks, like the two crooks on the roof in '89 is like, I heard the Bat got him. The Bat. They have this whole conversation about the Bat.
That's a term of familiarity. That's a term of like, we know Batman. We're criminals. We see Batman on a daily basis, so we call him the Bat because we know who we're talking about. But just casual, just like the Gotham Bat. It's like, if I hear that one more time, I'm gonna hurt somebody.
Meanwhile, we went from nobody calling Superman to now everyone calls him Superman.
I was happy with that, though. I was so glad that they were just like, Superman is his name. Let's just run with it. I was like...
the other thing is, in '89, Batman hasn't really been doing his Batman thing that long, and like there's all these like urban legends and stuff floating around about him, and some people think that he like drinks blood and shit. Like, it makes sense that they call him the Bat because he's basically the equivalent of like a vampire in their mind.
He's an urban legend in that. He's an urban legend. Nobody even knows what he looks like.
But a Batman who's been around for 20 years and has had brightly colored sidekicks and had battles with jail tattoo Joker, should be the name of that action figure. I would buy that.
Jail tattoo Joker, definitely.
Yeah.
It's even got the alliteration you need.
Yeah. But yeah, it doesn't make any sense for people to still be calling him the Bat unless it's like a familiarity thing, like you were saying. Like, people by this point should know, hey, he calls himself Batman,
Yeah, that too. I also thought that the relationship between the Gotham City police and Batman was ambiguous. Because there's one point where it's like the police are helping him, and I'm like, where was that? Because the only cop we see him interact with shot at him. So
yeah,
where was that part of it?
That there's
maybe it's in the deleted scene with
I bet there fucking is.
It's in that deleted scene with J. Jonah Jameson meeting up with Batman on the roof.
Yeah, but that's the shitty thing is, though, there's nothing cut with Gordon because they didn't cast him until after this movie was almost out.
That sucks. This is the first time we've had it's not really a Batman movie, but I think this is the first time we've had a Batman-related movie with no Gordon anywhere, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
I just think that there was like, I don't think that there was enough of an attempt to give us a good sense of what Batman's status quo was in this. I don't really know where he is now. He's not living at Wayne Manor. Why? He's killing people. Why? I kind of know why, but I like somebody to say it.
He's by himself. Why? Because supposedly there was a woman who was cast, and everyone said she was going to be Carrie Kelly. Who is that woman?
Oh yeah.
What happened?
Carrie Kelly was confirmed at one point to be in this movie.
What happened to that actress? Were her scenes cut?
She was cut out of the theatrical cut, but apparently she's going to be in the R-rated cut, according to Zack Snyder.
Well, obviously she wasn't that important.
I yanked my headphones out of rage to hear that. That's infuriating. I'm sorry, guys. Wow.
So we have a potential Bat character who could have helped establish who this Batman is and his status quo, and they took it out.
I love mystery. I'm all for leaving stuff out for the audience to wonder about, but not for basic character motivation and knowledge. That's not okay. You need to set that up, and that wasn't established. And even Wayne Manor being blown up, that's fine. I don't give a shit. But just like, why is he doing the things he is? Why is he where he is? Because like, there's this like attitude throughout the whole movie of everybody knows Batman, which is fine because they do. But like, they don't use that properly to give us a status quo Batman to go up against Superman. It's this weird status quo Batman to go up against this weird version of Superman. So I don't know. Didn't work for me on that level either. But I just wanted to bring up the Gotham Bat thing because that pissed me off so much. Just because I was
Okay.
just like, why even bother? Anyway, so round robin. Let's start with Dylan since we started with you last time. Started last with you last time. So Dylan, any lingering things you'd like to say about Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice?
An hour from now, I'll probably be kicking myself and saying, "Oh, I didn't bring up X, Y, or Z."
I know I'm gonna be too, and it's gonna. Oh, I just thought of it.
Like
Martha Kent, awesome in this movie.
But at the moment, no, I can't think of anything that we still have to discuss.
Mhm.
No, I think I'm good right now.
Okay. Andres, last things.
Okay, let's see. Any last thing? No, other than just that my final thoughts are that as much as I've complained about the film, I feel like there is enough to justify its existence. And it's going to be quite an interesting year to see what Warner Brothers is going to do with this movie. If the box office returns diminish as badly as we are predicting or as badly as we have been hearing about, because we know this whole Batman v Superman thing, this whole debacle is a result of the poor reception that Man of Steel got. So if this gets an equally infamous reputation, I can only imagine how much deeper Warner Brothers is going to dig themselves into. How much deep of the ditch they're going to dig themselves into.
It's
Well,
weird. I feel like we're almost making them worse by telling them what they're doing wrong.
what's going to be interesting is to see how people react to Suicide Squad later this year. I, for
Yeah.
Yeah,
one,
that's gonna be the straw that breaks the camel's back because that looks
I,
halfway decent.
Yeah.
I, for
So
one, have been getting good vibes from the Suicide Squad trailers to the point where I'm
Me
actually
too.
Funny
excited.
enough, the movie about the villains features much more bright and colorful marketing than the one
Oh.
about the world's finest.
oh.
Yeah.
That's all I can do now is just go, oh.
World's Finest. There's a good Batman Superman movie.
Oh, I watched the shit out of that after I walked out of this. You better fucking believe it.
I mean, heck, Batman, Superman, Public Enemies, and Apocalypse were probably a much more better experience than this.
Oh yeah,
Oh
definitely.
yeah.
Even Public Enemies, which isn't that great. Apocalypse is okay.
Yeah.
But Public Enemies isn't great. But even that's better than this is.
They get the
At least
characters
Batman and
right.
Superman. Yeah, at least they have a relationship, and that Batman
Yeah.
and Superman don't murder people. Fucking machine man, Tommy. David, lingering thoughts.
Uh, Nothing much that I said before. There are things that I didn't like about this movie, and then there were things I did like about this movie. But overall, it's still a film that I enjoyed watching, mainly for the spectacle aspect of it. But story, editing, directing, writing wise, it fails on those levels.
Yeah, definitely. It fails on every level except the visual and the soundtrack.
I mean, 30,
And that again, it sucks.
30 years from now, we'll just probably look back on this movie as like, oh, it was just another installment in the DC movie universe.
Maybe. I mean, maybe they'll be the opposite of Marvel. Maybe they'll start rough and get better.
Maybe the Lego Batman movie will be so great that they'll end up making a cinematic universe out of that.
They probably will though, because that movie looks dope.
Yeah.
I deserve this. I deserve this.
Like, oh, I
Anyway,
know how
so-
crazy you have been, Master Wayne, after all, with your previous adventures in 2016, 2012, 2008, 2005, so and so, so and so, so and so. Oh, and that weird period in 1966. What can I say, Alfred? I aged pretty damn well.
I can't wait for that movie. All right. So do you guys want to even bother doing scores? I have one.
Me
if
too.
you guys want to come up with one real quick. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So Dylan, you think David? Do you have a score ready to go?
Yeah, I got mine.
Okay. So I'm gonna give it a 2.5 out of 5. It might sound high given the fact that I did nothing but shit on it this whole time. But man, those visuals were amazing. And I'm with David. I was entertained. I was happy I was watching it, but I just wasn't happy with what I was watching. So, not that means not bad. That's not really accurate though. It's bad.
It's okay.
It's a bad movie, but it's worth watching. I'm gonna give 2. I'm gonna give it a 2 because it's bad. So I'm gonna give it an indication that it's bad, but it's the highest I can go without saying it's okay. Right? Does that make sense?
I think so.
All right, 2 out of 5 from me. David, go for it.
I'm gonna give it 2.5 stars out of 4, mainly
Wow.
because, like I said, there's things I liked about it. There's a lot of things I didn't like about it. and that's what's keeping me from giving it a full uh 3-star rating.
I definitely understand and agree. Definitely. Andres, go for it.
I'm giving it a 3 out of 5, mainly because I don't go by halves on my personal rating system. I feel I came out of the movie feeling more positive than negative overall, with how much I was left satisfied after the movie, and I feel like there are enough interesting ideas and enough spectacle to make this an overall pleasant experience for the most part.
Okay.
Oh, and
D?
the performances, absolutely. They actually
Yeah.
they have a lot of talent behind this movie. It's a shame none of it was used for the writing.
Yeah, it's a shame that they didn't spend all that money on getting a couple of writers who knew what they were doing. Anyway, so D, go for it.
I'm gonna go with what Bill had originally said and give it a 2.5 because out of 5 because I feel like literally I liked half of it. Um, I loved Ben Affleck and Jeremy Irons. They were great, and I loved. Again, visually, it's a beautiful movie. The score was good, but then just the writing and Jesse Eisenberg bring it way down for me. So I'm gonna go right down the middle and give it a 2.5.
I'm definitely with you. And I'm also like, these guys, it sounds like they had a more positive experience than I did, and I kind of worry that I'm gonna come off like a really mean fucking hater in this, and it's partially accurate. But it all comes from a place of just I was disappointed, and I was disappointed that I was disappointed, and this movie kind of did some things to me emotionally for a couple of days. But again, I saw this movie at a rough moment, and then I reaffirmed that it was a rough movie to see at a rough moment. So fuck this movie for that. But then also just fuck it because I think it's a poor attempt to bring the DC universe to screen. No, okay, not a poor attempt. It's a poorly executed attempt. Better word.
It's a rushed attempt.
It is a rushed, butchered attempt to bring the DC universe to screen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's unfortunate. And I hope that there's a better attempt in the future. Hopefully that'll be Suicide Squad, but we'll just have to see.
It's kind of funny how this is what we all predicted it would be from the very get-go when this movie was first announced at Comic-Con. We're like, oh...
I remember...
Yeah.
I remember back, like, years ago now. This is when Adam and I were still friends, and we were still... We were talking about this movie, and this is when Ben Affleck was cast. And I remember he said at that moment, I'm excited about this movie because it sounds like it's going to be a train wreck. And he fucking called it. He called it. And and at that time I was like, nah, it's going to be fine. And I was like, oh no, it is. So kudos to him for that.
Everybody freaked out when Ben Affleck was cast. I remember that. Me personally,
That's
I was
the least of this movie's worries.
Oh,
I was
again,
reserving.
really
I was
hope that
reserving
he doesn't
judgment.
think that
I was reserving judgment when they cast Ben Affleck, but I was kind of wary, at the same time. The one that I called was I knew I wasn't gonna like Jesse Eisenberg from the moment they cast him, and then I got to the movie and I was just like, "Yee, this was worse than I thought it was going to be."
And part of that was just the characterization. It was a bad idea to do a socially awkward psychopath version of Lex Luthor in the guise of the competent businessman that everybody fucking likes. That was a bad idea. If you're going to do a psychopath Lex Luthor, they should not have done the LexCorp side, because that really pissed people off, including me.
Mad scientist, go full out mad scientist.
Yeah, they really should have just done the full mad scientist.
Purple jacket and the green pants.
They could have gone back to old school Lex Luthor. He had the hair and everything, just the mad scientist.
Yeah, he had the hair. Also, they could have done the New 52.
Superman.
They could have done the New 52 version where he's a consultant for the government. He's not a businessman. He's a doctor consultant for the government, and he's just crazy. And he happens to be a fucking massive xenophobe. So they should have just done that. And he's a xenophobe in this too. So they should have just fucking done that.
Even J.J. Abrams' Lex Luthor in Superman Flyby, who's portrayed as an FBI agent, was more faithful to the comic
and
version.
Kryptonian.
Yeah, I told that.
That would have been more faithful. Now, okay, I don't have a problem with the attempt in this to make him like a charismatic, young, hip, like internet business tycoon. I was fine with that, making him kind of an eccentric, like Mark Zuckerberg type, which was the idea. I was fine with that. It was just that he wasn't fucking compelling and he was totally awkward to watch. I was awkward watching him. Like, that's not what you want for your villain. You don't want to watch it and go, ooh, I don't want nothing to do with that.
See,
You want to go, ooh, I don't like this guy, but he's compelling, and I want to watch him more. That's what you want.
apparently Jesse Eisenberg has like that nervous energy, like in his actual day-to-day life. Because did you hear the story about how he got cast?
No. Oh,
Um,
he went in for Jimmy Olsen, didn't he?
right, yeah. He goes in to interview for Jimmy Olsen. Zack Schneider talks to him for a little while, and then after he leaves, Zack like has this moment in his brain where he's like, "That kid's kind of crazy," and then he decided to do this new version of Lex Luthor, and that's why they didn't go with Bryan Cranston.
Ugh.
Um,
See, the thing they wanted to do was they wanted to, because they always wanted to kill Jimmy Olsen in the first couple minutes, which, again, however you feel about that, it is what it is. But their idea was to cast a big-name actor as him to get people excited and then kill him at first. I would have had more respect for that, honestly, if they would have gone that route, because that would have, like, had an impact. As it is, he's just a guy, and like, he's never even called Jimmy Olsen, so who cares?
no, I didn't even know he was supposed to be Jimmy Olsen until I got home
neither
later
did
that
I.
evening.
Nobody
I thought
did!
he was going to be
and heard
replaced by
all of
Jimmy Olsen.
and
That's
heard
what I
all of
thought.
the
That's what I
fanboy
thought, too.
rage on the internet. Apparently, people didn't even realize it was supposed to be him until they were reading the credits. I was like, people actually
Yeah.
read those?
Yeah, exactly.
But
We,
they're gonna
we
be like-
stayed, because I was under the impression there was something after the credits, but there wasn't.
Yeah, I always sit through the credits just in case that there's something after them. But I
Mhm.
don't actually read them. Ain't nobody got
No.
that.
I'm nearsighted
Funny
now.
enough,
Why would I strain my eyes like
the,
that?
the guy who got his who lost his legs at the beginning of Man of Steel intro, that guy, I think if they named him Wally, I'm thinking, oh, Wally, no legs, he's gonna be the Flash. Oh, I
I
guess
thought
not.
I thought
Nope.
the same thing. I was sitting
That's
there
what I
thinking,
thought too. I thought he was supposed to be Wally West. But nope.
Lieutenant Dan, you got new legs, and you
Also,
got new fast.
they're doing the Barry Allen version first, but I mean, they could have had a kid running around who could have been Wally West or something. I don't know. That was
They
dumb.
called him Wally, specifically Wally. So it's like, who the fuck is called Wally nowadays, other than Wally West?
Oh, that was the other thing. It's like, DC, what are you doing? Why would you have a moment like that at the beginning if it's not a reference to Wally West? There's another way worse Flash reference in this later. So what the fuck's wrong with you? Anyway, so we're just about to wrap up. So anyway, so this was just as I wanted, an emotional roller coaster of a review. I hope you guys enjoyed. We certainly had a good time doing it. I hope nobody minded the fact that I was a grumpy old man the whole time, just like this movie sucks, and I'm not taking anybody's shit otherwise.
As grumpy as Aquaman.
I was like, ugh, 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 fucking at the movie. Fucking shaking my fucking Blu-ray of Avengers: Age of Ultron at him, just like, ugh, ugh.
like I was trying to picture
Why are
his
you
internal
not like
monologue.
this? It's got its flaws, but it still works for the most part, damn it.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out Aquaman's internal monologue while this was going on, and all I could figure is that he saw this deep sea camera come into vision. He's like, "Hey, this is my cave, boy."
or I could have gone like, ugh, ugh, ugh. Anyway, all right. So do any of the kids have anything to announce? Kids?
Imagine if the Joker's not actually Jason Todd, but Alfred.
Oh, like in Batman, whatever happened to the Cape Crusader?
Oh yeah.
I'm sick of your shit, Master Bruce.
Oh, the Joker. Alfred was the Joker in that.
No. Well, in Batman, in whatever happened to whatever happened to the Cape Crusader, it's like Batman.
I know. I've got it right here.
Okay, yeah, he's watching his own funeral, and everybody's giving their own opinion on how Batman died. And for whatever fucking reason, Alfred is like, "Oh, I was the Joker, and I hired a bunch of my friends to play the Batman villains."
That's right. Yeah, and his friend goes crazy
with
right.
with the Riddler shit.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Killed Batman. You know, according to Alfred. It's a really weird book. I'm not even sure if it's even in continuity or it's supposed to be some just tribute to the history of Batman.
I don't know, man.
Didn't it take place after he actually died in the comics?
Yeah. Except he was vaporized. Meanwhile, in the book, you see his actual body there, and the costume changes depending on the era of Batman that each character describes.
He died, but he wasn't dead. Isn't this the period of time when Dick Grayson became Batman for a while?
Well, it's not it's not canon. It's kind of just like a there's a story called Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow that it's based on. That's Alan Moore's take on that with Superman. And it's just kind of a whole bunch of anecdotes that don't really have anything to do with the main continuity. It's fucking great. I love that book a lot. I haven't read What Happened to the Man of Tomorrow yet, but I have read Whatever Happened to the Cape Crusader.
I love how this whole conversation came from a one-off joke that David made.
I know, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's wrap this up then. I assume the kids have nothing to announce. I also have nothing to
Well,
announce.
I have something to announce.
Go ahead, child.
Okay, so let's see. So I recently put out three videos. I have I did my review for the Ultraman manga Volume 2 that I did with Bill and Dylan. I think we're the only people on YouTube who reviewed Volume 2 because everyone else kind of just did Volume 1 and was done with that. So
Good.
so we may have a monopoly on the Ultraman manga series. Yeah.
Woo!
It's great. Fucking pick it up, David.
We're the only people who care.
You're the biggest
Woo!
Ultraman fan. Have you read the Ultraman manga, the Ultra manga?
It's the one where the Hayata's son takes the mantle of Ultraman, right, and wears a robot suit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read the first volume. I haven't gotten the second volume yet.
Fuck you. You should. We're better Ultraman fans than you because we support this shit.
I have the entire Showa era, Andres.
So do I.
No, you don't.
David, I'm reading that series. I have 3 volumes. I own all 3.
Yeah,
Like
I got 3 volumes too. I'm gonna go buy 4 right now. Fuck you.
I don't even care about Ultraman. It means nothing to me. So fuck you. No.
You greasy fat monkey.
Anyways, we did that review and check it out. I
did.
also made my video called the top 5 best and worst aspects of the Heisei Godzilla series. I'm really proud of how that video came out. Basically, I just poured out all my feelings towards the Heisei series as a whole after having reviewed all 7 of them last year. And finally,
least favorite was Space Godzilla, just on the list. Just least favorite aspect,
No.
Space Godzilla.
like worst aspect number 1 worst aspect, Space Godzilla. All of
the whole thing, just all 2 hours. Just I want them all represented on this list. No, I'm kidding.
And finally, the last video I put out was my review for the 2016 film Kamen Rider 1, a movie that's made to be the 45th anniversary of the Kamen Rider franchise. I got to see it in theaters since I'm here in Japan, obviously. It was a lot
subtitles.
Without subtitles, but hey, it's a Kamen Rider. It's a superhero Japanese.
What was
it's a
the
Japanese
story
superhero
about,
movie.
Andres?
Basically,
What was your favorite line?
What did you think about the dialogue?
my favorite.
Did you understand the story?
Yes, I did. You can check out my review for that to know the details of my thoughts on the film, as well as me describing my experience watching a film without subtitles. Basically, it's easy to go in without subtitles because it's a Japanese superhero movie. They all essentially have very simplistic plots that focus more on action than on dialogue and storytelling and that sort of thing.
I would never be satisfied with that. I have to know what's going on. If I don't know what's going on, it just irritates me.
In that case,
noise.
we can get David to track down a version of Kamen Rider 1 with subtitles. Kamen Rider 1 26
coming since it's a tie-in with Kamen Rider Ghost.
Yeah.
They typically
and Ghost has subtitles online.
Yeah, they typically release the tie-in movies with subtitles like close months after the show's wrapped up.
Okay. All right.
So, Andres, I'm gonna watch that movie with subtitles, and I'm gonna ask you questions.
Yeah.
Regarding plot points of.
I want that as a video. I want a fucking grill session between you and Andres.
No, this is what happens. You review the movie. David actually knows what the people were saying. Andres has no idea, and we'll see how much of it Andres was correct about, and how much of it was just speculation.
Where Andres is like, I really liked how the guy's was really driven by his father's death, and it's like that wasn't his father, Andres.
That was not his motivation at all. I really liked how Kamen Rider's mother's name was Martha, and so was.
And how the other Kamen Rider's name was Martha. That was really clever as a way to get them to be friends.
That's why Kamen Rider 1 and Kamen Rider Ghost decided to team up against Shocker. It's like, wait a minute, your name is Kamen Rider 2?
What? Your mother's name Rider?
I'm Kamen Rider. Why did you say that name?
Andres, were you just imagining the plot of Batman v Superman when you were watching Kamen Rider 1?
Not really, because...
It's like, wow, Kamen Rider's very mopey in this version. Doesn't really know what to do with himself.
It's like
no, because
insects and shit.
Because Kamen Rider is an old Kamen Rider in this movie, isn't he?
Yeah, that bulky armored suit looks a lot like the Bat armor.
It does.
He's like fighting the mutant Shocker. He's fighting the Shocker mutant cyborgs. He's like, tell me, do you bleed? You will.
All right. Well, I think that's gonna do it, everyone. So as always, be sure to like the SOS. Oh wait, did you have anything else to announce?
No, just I made a review for that, and so yeah, definitely check it out if you are interested in eventually tracking down that film in the near future. And hey, I think it's my very first Kamen Rider related video on my channel, so yeah, that's a plus.
Oh, I forgot to mention something when we were reviewing the movie, and it's a really minor thing. I liked the fact that this version of Batman had like a mic to modulate his voice, and he wasn't doing the Christian Bale thing.
It was a good idea. It sounded like shit, but it was a good idea.
But yeah, he wasn't giving himself throat cancer. That was a welcome.
Yeah.
Well, unless it's like radioactive or something, and then it's just sitting there, just like, bang.
Kind of like how Lex Luthor wore the kryptonite ring around, and then at some point he realized, oh, putting a radioactive rock on my finger probably wasn't a good idea.
Oh, hey, I don't have a penis anymore. Well, shit.
Guess I
anyway.
stopped using my kryptonite cock ring.
Better stop using that kryptonite condom I used to rape Superman every week.
Oh shit.
Things just got real here at the SOS Kids, as they always do, and as this movie does. But you can always go to the Sons of Serizawa Network homepage on Facebook to find all the things that Andres just said and many more, including the last episode of the Demons from Outer Space, in which Dylan and I talked about Goku and Superman and if they switched universes and what would happen to each of them if they crash landed on the other person's Earth. We're really glad that people were into it, and we hope that you'd be into it too, so why don't you go ahead and find out and hop over to that video to see how you're feeling about it. So there's lots of other things you can do. You can join Toku Legion on Facebook. That'll also be in the description. You can follow me on Facebook and Twitter at Bill Worster and Billy Worster. You can subscribe to all these motherfuckers. I don't know what fucking channel David's using now. I mean, David, what the hell is the deal?
Still using many.
Still using many. So subscribe to Miscellaneous. Dylan, of course, you can find at SuperDM64 and Andres over at Kaiju Noir. So until next time, everyone, I am Bill Worster, a.k.a. Zazubaar.
Oh, is it my turn?
It is indeed, as it has been for the past 2.5 years.
Well, that... Bah. 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 There.
Bah!
I said
He-Man!
That man!
That man and Robin.
that was it.
Dylan, say something!
God damn it, Dylan!
You waiting on me?
fucking
I thought we were still waiting on this motherfucker to actually say something.
No,
David said he was
pointing
done.
at you.
Oh, he's
I
done.
was
That was
pointing-
it.
I was
He
pointing at
grunted.
the general
Pointing
sense.
to
Grunted,
you.
and that was his thing. Okay, whatever. Well, like I know where he's pointing on my screen. To me, it just looks like he's pointing. Anyway, yeah, I'm Super DM64.
To me, it just looks
It-
it just
no,
looks like
he-
he's pointing at me.
No,
so you know.
he's doing.
What was I supposed to
He's
think?
trying to point at you with the Aquaman trident.
This motherfucker, this guy up here on my screen, don't know where he is on you guys' screen. He didn't say anything, so I didn't know if I was like, is he gonna say something or should I?
After 30 seconds of Bill frustratedly pointing at the camera, I finally decided that I should probably do something. Say your name, Dylan.
I did, but you didn't hear me.
Sorry, I was too angry. I'm sorry, Dylan. I have my shortcomings.
I'm Super DM64.
Thank
I'm
you.
Andres Perez, aka Kaiju Noir.
And until next time, kids. The science is sound. In your travel accommodations, you didn't have to travel anywhere to get here. Or did you? If you did, you wasted a lot of money, and I'm sorry. Good night, everyone. Did he bleed? I don't know if he bled. I wasn't paying attention. night.
That's right. That's a good question.
He did. He did bleed a little.
Okay.
Because Batman cut his cheek with the kryptonite.
He had to force... Batman had to force it, but it happened.
All right. He had to force himself on Superman. Got it.
Don't like. You're not brave. People are brave.